Tell me something, what's on my mind? I got something for you if you want it. Got something for you if you want it. Got something for you if you want it. All that bed like Backstreet. No other man if you ask me. Fuck on that bitch in the backseat. Me in Newcastle, yeah, I'm king. Know me, ho, mad at me. Send a DM to trap me. Know your bitch in the taxi. Wanna get drunk and nasty. 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 Wanna get drunk and nasty.
Hello, everybody. I am cooking with these edits. I can't take full credit. I'm just finding songs, but I'm putting them together in ways in which I am proud of myself that are gonna fill the dossier for the new product. Making sure everything's set up properly right now. Should be. Okay. Wonderful. Wagwan, everyone. Wagwan. How you feeling? How you doing? Okay, or I see One Wick is here. I see Struggler is here. I see Monster is here. Today's moving day for you? Yeah, I know. At least you have music to move to, bro. Reacting to your question from the thumbnail, is the stream legit? Is there going to be a Doki Doki Literature live adaptation? No, that is a joke meme. That is a joke meme. You think it was real, wouldn't you? No, that is a joke meme. Alright, what do we have here? What do we have here? Crack the knuckles. Crack the knuckles. Yeah. He's keeping me waiting for it, chat. He's keeping me waiting for it. Pip, you ask questions like you don't know what Yap-In is at this point. We've had 12 of these now. We have whatever you all bring me. What do you mean? Speaking of bringing, is he coming or is he going? Yappuccino is a good... Yappuccino, you got something there, boss. I'm writing that one down. Yappuccino. 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 Sundays. I'll work as an alternative title to Yap-In's, most definitely. Speaking of Yappuccino, one, are you coming in or are you going? Somebody's shot. I don't know. I don't know, bro. I just push the buttons and run the show. More Bungie's lawsuits come in. More saying how the game devs are giving the content. You also have stage frights. Not everybody wants to be on camera. But he like walked into the room designated for the show and it's like, what the fuck am I waiting for? I don't know, man. In the meanwhile, the PoE server is live. So, while we are gathered here today, amongst our mutuals and contextuals, I will be playing in the server, because apparently I'm the only person in light right now. There are 2 people in the league, and I'm one of them. I played a little bit last night because I couldn't sleep after the last versus chat. I guess he's not going in. Oh well. But anyways, I'm getting close to having the finishing of some of my material, so everything's turning out kind of fine.
You managed. Farewell.
You are my wish, you my best friend, you be lovers, you begin. I have one wish. You're having a good time? Nothing like coming out of work early since nothing was happening? Well, that's always great, ain't it? course, in terms of the Bungie lawsuit, that's just kind of what you expect, right? Like, they want to sue somebody over some shit that they think shouldn't be in their game, and it's like, bro, you are the ones that chose to design it that way. What do you mean you're going to try and sue people over shit that you put in your content? It's some of the most taunt-inducing shit I've ever seen. I don't know about you. They want to get upset about the idea that they want to try and take them to court about some shit that wouldn't be out there in the field for content and work if they hadn't been the ones to basically promote the work and the material and thus get people excited about content that has yet to be made. Saying it's bad leakage. Like what you mean? Like, unironically, what do you mean? I love you, my girl. It's been so long since Affliction League. There we go. I found it. Not to take away from the stream, but a favorite Monica's enthusiast Hayden Paladin dropped in the video. I noticed. We might be watching it on Monday. I haven't talked to her about it because usually when I intend on reacting to something that my mutuals make, I ask them for permission. I don't have to, I just prefer to. So that in case they want to be able to look at what I think of their content, they may do so. Not everybody cares, but I care. And that's what matters to me. Survival. Plus, it's good ass timing considering this thing just came out. I don't see a reason why it wouldn't be a good time to drop that video. Because I have some ideas that I might need her and Bill for this upcoming round of Radio Carl ideas. I mean, in general, it's good form to ask for permission all the time. It's one of the preferable angles that I try to take. But I know that I'm cool with Aiden, so even if I had not asked, she'd be fine with it. But I prefer not to assume anymore. For reasons that are obvious to some that may not be obvious to others. I made this large amount of flask bad. Earthers. That's a big wolf. If the media owner doesn't even have the media then copyrighted, can they even be able to sue you for it? There's a question about whether or not the person has the right to actually control the media in general or in question, because of the fact that they do not truly have control over the property rights, considering that the material in question that is being claimed is material that they do not have the ability to actually control the final say of. They legitimately can't be able to tell you if you're not allowed to have it or not. Simply because they cannot actually be able to prove that it is a taking of something that does not belong to you, because they did not protect the copyrighted material in a way where it can be consistently obvious that it is their effort and their work. So they would get upset about something that they can't control, and they'd have no final say on the matter because they basically didn't do the necessary work to ensure protection of their material, which is the problem in question. They can't be able to say that they have copyright protection, because if they truly gave a shit about the copyright protection, they would have protected it, and they did not in that case. So it'd be a very big case of he said, she said. And in terms of protection here, they have due cause of the law to have to prove themselves as deserving the right, and they do not. So they're kind of fucked for the most part. For the most part. That is at least the way that I see it, for the most part. There you go. Up, here she is. Technically, Juan Wick would have been the first, but Juan was stage fright. Hello, Saffronet.
Hello?
How you doing, girl?
I'm alright.
What have you brought me beyond horrors today?
I mean, I didn't have any really horrors, really. I was just kind of worried that it would have been too much to talk about because of the subject matter.
Do I ever sound like I'm a person who has not enough space for the subject matter?
No, it's just that I mean, I apologize because I didn't know the gore would not be able to be shown on stream. I should have put in a warning before that.
That's fine. Like, it's normal stuff, it's normal shit. It's not that big of a deal. I say it's not that big of a deal because it's just the nature of how they are on the platforms. They are going to try to find reasons to ban or restrict us because of how they will say, you can't put that on camera because people can be confused, blah, 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 blah. And I just prefer to go with the angle of, bro, there are people here, but I'm going to just cover my own ass so that I don't get fucked by YouTube or Twitter or Twitch, because that's just how they do shit. That's as simple as it is. I hear that you have a phone on your desk.
No, I'm on my phone.
Okay. Yeah, it's not. You didn't do anything wrong. Regardless, what brings you upon my doorstep today? Take your time.
Well, I apologize. Every time I do these call-ins, I'm kind of sleepy, so I'm not firing all cylinders.
Okay.
But the only other thing I just wanted to say about that stuff is just that, like, it kind of like brought to a head. I don't know if this makes any sense, like the kind of, like, I want to say posers within like these anime communities that like say like, oh, we completely understand, but they have complete contempt for it, or they like it in ways that's like, I guess, toxic to them or other people.
Yeah, that's toxic and wrong, and they need to be shamed for it. Go ahead, elucidate your thought. Well, let me stop you.
It's more like, you know how Dimitri put it, like, it's kind of the same kind of crap that, you know, we've seen for like years and years and years, and I think this probably might be a breaking point for many. And I don't know if anybody out there is going to even do a video on that. I don't know if Dimitri's going to talk about that.
Well,
I think he should, but...
Well, the question is, what is there to be said that we haven't already said a billion times before on Twitter or in other videos or in live streams when discussing it amongst ourselves and our peers? For some of us, the concept is rationally new because of the people in question who are involved with the material in question being figures that have more or less brought an undue level of attention to themselves due to the people that they choose to involve in their views and their spaces that directly become voices that then are the signal boost for the attention, breaking out further past their particular niche audiences into the general zeitgeist. It starts with people like Head, you see. Most of us would have been completely unmolested, unaware, and uncaring of who these people are and what they think about content, if it weren't for the fact that their opinion is so loud and pervasive. Because the majority of them are obviously tourists. And as I've always said with tourists, the biggest problem with them is that they are always wrong and fucking loud. Loudest voice in the room is the most annoying voice in the room. And these guys are annoying. Guys, girls, don't care what they identify as. I'm mostly speaking to the element of the group factor that they choose to take part in a behavior that they say is contemptible, but is okay when they do it the way that they do it. With people like Leadhead, it's very clear that they don't like people perceiving them, because when they're going out there, the first thing they wanted to say in their content was, don't tell me about people, don't bring me no bad news, I don't care, I don't want them to make money off of me. Also, they're gonna make their money off of me, so just ignore what they have to say, they're ignorant. Every step of that journey we went through, watching every single one of those videos on that playlist, in order of how they were listed, reveals the attitude behind Miracle-chan. It's the same fucking yuppie bullshit that we've already come to know and hate about these kind of content creators and their audiences and communities. They will never change. They are just being exposed to a new, wider audience. And with that new, wider audience, they do not like the attention factors that come in with the things that they've come to hate about the groups that they're involved with and the people that they're getting criticized by. It's been the same shit thousands of times before. The only difference in elevation is that it's a group of people who now can expect there to be attention brought to them, not because they think the action is cringe, but because they think the people that are watching them do the action is cringe. So instead of concerning themselves with, this is really dumb stuff, I don't think I should be involved with this, I don't think my energy is necessary for this, I find it weird that you guys care, blase, 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 it has instead become a, don't give them attention, don't give them time. If you ignore them, they'll go away. And it's like, what the fuck do you mean will go away? You're the ones invading my hobby. So the attention factor becomes a different level of annoyance. Because we want to hear about why you think the way that you do. We would love to have an explanation. All of us would love to have an explanation. But it becomes a situation of, you guys just hate us. You would ask for the death of our existence, and it's like, I just want to know why you think the way you are. But somehow, a basic take that would not belong outside of 2009 suddenly becomes a, they hate us because they ain't us, but also they want us to be exterminated, and also they hate all of us for existing, and also they want us to die. And if you don't let us believe the way that we believe, we will act like it will be the biggest danger and threat to us permanently in existence, forever and ever, unto anxiety. Also, we hate black people. Some type of shit like that.
Ugh.
Every time it happens, it's the same fucking talking points. And nobody can ever explain why they feel this way. When we ask them to, it's just, well, you guys, we heard you hate black people. And it's like, we don't, what? No. Like, that's all.
Get this wrong.
Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Why is this even relevant? Can you tell me the reason why you don't like stuff? In one ear, out the other. Every time. And you wonder if it's schizo posting on some level. You know, they just act like this. Everyone asks them for a calm and rational understanding. Can you please explain to us why you feel the way you feel about this content? Every time, blow out of the mouth. Like someone's killing them. For the hills. Every time, goddammit. For the hills. Every time. So, we look at them and their opinions. And they say, no, don't go over there. Those people hate crime you. And it's like, no. We just want to know why you think the dumb shit you think. And you won't tell us, no matter how much we beg you to say something. If you feel that watching cutesy shit on the internet supposedly is going to make you trans, why is it that you seem to have this opinion only when it comes to some type of material that you otherwise would not have said it about? I didn't come up with the shit. It was your guys' opinion. Seemingly out of nothing, even. So how is it our fault that you had these opinions about content that otherwise you would have ignored? And nothing. Every time. Somehow it's everybody else's fault. And everyone else's problem. And everybody else has to hear about it. Every fucking time. With no opinion. That's probably the biggest frustration factor. It's not just you talk about it endlessly. You scare yourselves into a frenzy over it. But somehow I have to address the fact that you don't like something. And because you don't like something, I have to perpetually live hearing about a never-ending factor, about dog shit that doesn't apply to the worldview I know is not true, to the content that you're watching. Because you and all your friends get in a circle and tell yourselves that it's the worst thing since sliced bread. Or white women discovering that black men have an inner life. It's the most boring shit in existence. Because even if we have the conversation amongst ourselves, that doesn't actually address the problem. We want to know what you think. But every time we ask you what you think, suddenly you start closing off your community. It's like you're trying to fucking extrench yourself to COVID. There's only so much patience that we can afford and allow these people before we just tell them fuck off then. But they never leave. They stay in the house. They're always here. And they always got some smart shit to say. And when we get tired of hearing about it and seeing them talk shit about it, suddenly we're the fucking monsters. Somehow I'm the goddamn problem. Because I'm hearing them complain and giving them the space to talk. They unironically never stop yapping. It's not normal. It's not acceptable. It's not okay. So whenever we criticize them, like, Chads, their opinions don't matter. But then, it's not us saying it this time. Usually, it's not usually. It's most people on the internet from other groups usually doing it together collectively as a whole. But it's not even us saying, bro, get the fuck off it. Shit, off the pot. It's them. They're the ones saying it. They're the ones annoyed with the shit. So we end up being vindicated because they can't shit and get off the pot. And it's like, sorry, bro, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, you talked too much. Now everybody's tired. They just want to know why you feel the way that you feel. And maybe this time, if we get an actual straight answer, we will understand for the last time what actually made Jump is really that mad. At least that's the logic. I don't know about you, but I don't want to listen to a person bitch and whine and moan about something that they say is the worst problem since fucking gentrification. Suddenly, I just want to see what the goddamn problem is. I'd like somebody to piece it together for me. Make sense of it. And if they can't make sense of it, well, damn, why are we talking about it? Like, scaring ourselves fucking silly, I don't see the value in that. I don't know.
No, there's no value in, like, basically stressing yourself out over nothing. I've been in that situation several times.
When it comes to me and my problems, of which you've known an example of because you were there in the room when it happened, you know what I'm talking about. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
Like, I asked somebody a question. They don't answer my question. So I'm like, okay, bet, not my problem. Then, when they confirmed the thing that I knew to be the case, and I say, okay, so when I asked you this the first time, why didn't you answer me? And it's like, well, we weren't sure that it was the right time to talk, or that you were the right fit. We were very questioned by... No, I'm reacting this way because you're acting like I've killed your dog. Answer my questions. If you don't want to answer my questions, I'm going to walk away with my opinion. And my opinion is, you're acting like a bitch. And that's just over some unironic socialite shit. You're telling people that it's the biggest problem in the world that people watch anime? Let alone the fact that the majority of them are watching dubbed, which is half the problem. They're being told about a worldview that they're getting from actors that desperately need them to buy merch at the goddamn studio. You're getting bad interpretations from content that you don't understand because you don't actually know about the worldview of the material that you're watching, or the things that they believe from the content of the material that you're watching. But you desperately want everybody to be scared of a problem that's not fucking happening. So you want to live in the world of Sheminetta. And you want me to be scared with you. Sorry, can't do it. I love cookies too much. I love goose. I love licking it. I love eating it. I'm not going to be scared of women. Doesn't mean I don't have a reason to have a rational fear of women, or that I couldn't be wary of women. But I'm not about to sit here and let people tell me, yeah, you need to be terrified. These men will do horrible things to you. These men, they desperately want to be women on the inside. So they whenever they have anger, they're upset at their moms. What kind of shit is that to say to people constantly? Forget the male
foolishness.
Like, forget the male loneliness up in it. You motherfuckers need to go to goddamn therapy soon. That's always been the case. They've always needed to go to therapy. But usually it's pseudoscience and pseudo-intellectual talking points, so that people like fucking FD Signifier can make more money. Now you're telling me we're going to do the same shit again, but this time it's about why a person desperately wants to say that they're an otaku, when they're clearly not? They only cared about anime when it was something to become popular to watch during COVID? Nah, can't do it. Sorry. I don't give that much of a fuck.
Well, when looking at that short film, Angelic Kitty Miracle Chan, it seems to be kind kind of doing the nostalgia bait thing of like 2000s anime specifically.
Assuming that they're not aiming for the nostalgia of Serial Experiments Lane or the melancholy of Haruhi Susamaya, we're looking at post-COVID and post-recession content clout. They are reminiscing of a time period in an age that we cannot get back. Because if we had to ask people to actually put more time and attention into the material that they're worried about versus the material that they're consuming, they would not be willing to give away the game that they're clearly playing by agitating people into fear, which is the biggest problem. They want to fearmonger about a problem that for most people does not exist. There is no problem with consumption of anime because you are in control of the buttons you press. There are no problems.
You can control what you look at. You can control what you read and how you interpret things. Like I don't read or watch Made in Abyss and think the guy is like, needs to be in jail. I think the problem is not with people like that. Maybe with people who do shonen stuff. Maybe look into that. But some people know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and there's a time and a place where a person could feel annoyance and come to some understanding of what they're trying to communicate with the other people that they're concerned with on the issue that they are facing. There is a clear space and a clear time for that space. But they have to shit or get off the pot. This is the key problem. They have to shit or get off the pot. They are not shitting. They are not getting off the pot. So if they're not going to shit and they're not going to get off the pot and they're going to keep saying how all of this stuff is such a danger and a harm to people, where has the harm been caused? Point it out to me. Show me where it is. Because it appears to me...
The anime girls are too cute and they make me feel funny.
I
gotta draw it, please. Don't think I'm a weirdo. I'm not perverted. I'm not perverted at all.
Mm-hmm. Like, there's a clear problem that is being communicated. And it is serious enough that it would bring attention to what they want to have discussed. But it's not coming from any of us. We're not the ones that are dealing with it or causing it. And in lots of ways, they can't handle the fact that they are the problem that is being discussed. Because they're used to bringing the attention. They're not used to being given the attention on the issue. So when we start asking our questions and we start breaking it down, they get upset because we're doing analysis the wrong way. We're being midwits. We're being the chuds. Despite the fact that we're just bringing up the fact that they care a lot about this subject matter, but they're not willing to, look deeper into the issue, for the most part. So, not my circus, not my monkeys. That's really what it comes down to. This used to be a problem before with recession-level content that was made because people were bored and they needed something to do. I don't look down on that, and I do not say it to denigrate people who are themselves young. But this is a young man's attempt to try and give themselves relevance in a way that they haven't earned. So when they complain about shit in this way, I super find myself not giving a fuck, not caring. Just by the nature of the amount of energy they're putting in and the amount of interest that I have on getting out of it. Like with Leadhead, I can laugh at the fact that they desperately want connection with their family, but they're not willing to actually do the work to reach it. But after the 10th time, it stopped being funny. it stopped being cute. It became pathetic. I judged them poorly for their actions and their decisions. People getting baited by the thumbnail. It becomes a question of what do they care about more? Do they care about the attention or do they care about the subject matter? If they care about the subject matter, they're actively destroying the subject matter with the involvement that they have with the content in question. They are making themselves look like fools, for the most part. And on some level, I would feel bad for them, but I would not pity them. And I would not think twice about saying they deserve what they're getting. Because they deserve what they're getting. When it was their chance to care about something, they didn't want to care about it. Then when it became this extremely explicit and very unique thing for them to care about, in the sense of complaining about problems that don't matter and are not involved and could be easily solved by you stop caring, we became the monsters for even suggesting that they should stop caring. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the world's gonna implode and blow up if you guys keep watching anime. And it's like, okay, cool. So what are we supposed to do as an alternative? It's like the versus chat we had last night, going through the talking points of JDA. John Delaraz clearly wants a world where he is the moral impositor of what you're allowed to consume when it comes to his viewpoint of his content and of his involvement in what he considers to be his church and his congregation of very big brain people who know so much but can't tell you a goddamn thing about why they should be given the power to tell you how to behave and what to do. You got a bunch of pseudo-speak.
Clearly, they're not fit to rule anything.
Correct. Like, you have a bunch of pseudo-speech about how one thing is bad and how another thing needs to have control. And that's nice, but what the fuck does that have to do with you and needing my money? Like, savvy? Like, I don't need to give you my money in order for you to feel better about the worldview that you're currently involved in with these people that you're bringing along to tell us how it is very important that we give money to the church. It used to be the Church of Women Worshipping when it was bedroom feminists. Then it became the Church of Incels Online somewhere when it became video essayists deciding to pick on people who just want to be left the fuck alone. Now it's, if you ever feel an emotional connection to a character, and it is not explicitly platonic because you want to become that character, you're transgender and should immediately transition.
Transition right there.
Because if you don't transition, you're going to feel bad about yourself and you're going to want to die. To the point where it becomes everybody's problem that we have to hear about it 24/7. Because don't you understand how hard this life is? I'm sure it's horrible, boo-boo. But why are you telling me I am in queue at fucking Subway? You're scaring my son. If I say that, I'm heartless. But I don't know. I've lost my ability to give a shit. To be truthfully honest, I've lost the ability to give a fuck. This is the opposite of what John Delaraz said, mind you. His is, I shouldn't care about sentimentality and about civility because it's a case of total war. It's us or them. What I'm saying here is, I understand your problems are really bad, so why don't you stop terrifying yourself? And it's like, no, this is my identity. If I don't have this, what do I have? And it's like, all right, bro, you got it. And I'm walking away from the situation. I'm choosing to relinquish any control I could have, or any say that I could have. Because really, it's not my place to say. It's not up to me to be the one to solve the problem. It's their issue. It's their problem. It's their worldview. It's their philosophy. It's their mindset. It doesn't have anything to do with me personally. I can be a nice shoulder to cry on, but I'm not staying here in this holding pattern with you, where you tell me, no, it's dark outside, you can't leave. I don't want to be here in the drama circle. I want to go. I got video games to play. I got food to eat. Like, that's really what it comes to. I'm being flippant when I say coochie eat, because it's not about the cooties. I have a life to live. So I'm not going to pay my detriments and respects to a never-ending problem that I don't need to be involved in. Because what the fuck does it have to do with me? It doesn't need me involved in it in order for something to happen. That's all them. So if they need to be permanently terrified and scared, so that they always have something to talk about with somebody who they feel is an issue. First, ignite. If they need to constantly have a problem with a group of people that they have to be worried about and invested into the problems of, that's completely removed from me entirely. Not my problem, not my circus, not my monkeys. I don't care. Doesn't require me for a single thing to happen. But if they push and they push and they push and they push, I'm just gonna be real. I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm gonna keep it a stack. Because there has to be a point where I can say enough is enough. If there's never a chance where I can remove myself from the quandaries of the problems that are supposedly causing the heartbreak and the pain, then it means that there is no actual answer to the problem. And what you want people to do is you want them to be perpetually stuck in your narrative. And I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim. You're not a victim. We are ordinary people. We are ordinary people. No one of us is more special than the other. That's at least the philosophy we're supposed to be able to accept and understand about ourselves and others. I am just a regular man. We are just regular men. If I can't be a regular man over here, away from them, and it always needs my involvement, then it's not about civility, and it's not about understanding, and it's not about concern and worry. It's about you scaring people, and honestly, I don't like that they scare the hoes.
You stop scaring the hoes. Gotta stop scaring everybody.
So at the end of the day, my biggest concern is that they have to accept that they need to go to therapy and they need to get some help.
They go to therapy. They need to probably work out their inner demons, because that's what I saw. This dude, Colin guy, has some freaking demons. I don't know what caused it. They need to work it out instead of like doing whatever he's doing. I mean, and like being Twitter brained all day.
I mean, the point of most of these demons that they quote need to exercise is just trauma. It's just trauma from before the area of the internet where they become way too permanently online. And the best way to solve it would be just go out and live. They haven't lived life yet, so they're worried about shit that's not even a problem. So when we try to address them, like rational men and rational women, I can say, listen, I understand you're hurting. I can see that you're in pain. But bro, it's gotta stop. Once they live life, they will realize that this shit that they've allowed themselves to be concerned with was never that important. And they'll be able to live. They'll be able to live a full, happy life without constantly having to pay deference to this ghost. It's like Batman at the grave of his parents in Mask of the Phantasm. I didn't count on being happy. I'm sorry, transgenderism. I should have done something I didn't realize. Oh. If they get happy, and they find themselves in a place, however they choose to live their life, if they are happy, they have done something wrong. And they need to be miserable. And they need to make the rest of us miserable along with them. Because, we're at the biggest risk. Our lives have the biggest problems and the biggest pains. I'm certain you got struggles that I'm never going to have to deal with. But what the fuck does that have to do with being a regular person? You desperately need me to be involved in your methodology of healing from your trauma? It is important that you have my investment. No, it is not. This is torture that you want to inflict on me in proxy of the people you actually have a problem with. Your mama, your daddy, your bald-headed step granny, The guy who told you no when you were a child. The girl who told you no when you were a child. That one's more accurate for the guys that end up becoming the girls. Specifically, because they transition. And the thing they transition into is basically a mid-fucking OnlyFans model. It has happened. It has happened too many times for it to be a coincidence.
Yep.
Now with Colin, I don't know if it's specifically transgender, if it's transgenderism and transitioning for them. For Leadhead, it is. For most leftists, it's usually not having enough power to litigate a issue into their career, because they just pick topics and that becomes their entire mindset. Cataclysm does it, Lewis McClung does it, FT Signifier does it. The majority of them tend to do it, and they do it because if they become the arbiter of the topic, they can control who gets content and clout from talking about it, which in most cases is boring as fuck. But you know, that's their choice. But the leftists, they tried to own this topic in this way, and now that we're in post-recession, the material is just not hitting. Certainly, truly, the content, the material, it just ain't hitting. We're not getting scared like we used to be. We're not getting parasocially attached like we used to be. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't like that. They don't like that.
And then me is just looking at the shit like, man, just go work some shit out. Why'd you make this? You didn't have to animate that. Like, what do you mean by this? Like, why'd you copy, like, a guy who draws lolly and then say that, oh, I'm anti-lolly? Like, why would you do that?
I wish...
Like, that's just gonna raise more questions than answers.
I mean, most of us won't ask questions. Most of us are just gonna cock the shotgun, just like the Shirajik was joking. Either on them or ourselves. Usually ourselves. Because we'd rather not live in a cruel world that forces us to deal with this than live in a world where we have to hear about it all the time. Also, he did look up that thing. Colin is on the list.
What? What do you mean?
He's on the Boku no Pico list. Are you not aware of the Boku no Pico list?
No, I don't. I don't know what that is.
Boku no Pico was a psyop that was invented to catch as many pedophiles as possible. So when you buy physical material of Boku no Pico, even if you choose to buy it as a joke, you go onto a permanent registry of pedophiles that have been registered as people who have consumed Boku no Pico and bought physical memorabilia of it. He is on the list multiple times.
Wait, so did he buy, like, the manga, the doujin or something?
Any material about Boku no Pico. Any merchandise, any doujin copies, any doujin resales, he's on the list multiple times. So he's a connoisseur of the content that he's complaining about.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. He knows that era of, like, moe anime a little bit too well, to the point where he can replicate it very easily. So I don't think he's, like, post 2020 anime fan. He knows quite a bit about it if he's drawing Madoka and knows who Akio Watanabe is.
I don't know, man. I just flipped the burgers.
I know he just flipped the burgers, but I kind of did have to go into detail about what his influences were.
I mean, I appreciate it. It helps everybody know exactly what kind of freak we're dealing with.
I mean, I've seen this with, like, kind of other things, too. I mean, I've noted that other guy he was in contact with, how he also basically did the same thing. He copied his art style from a lolicon artist, but, you know, he's against it. So it's fine, I guess.
That becomes one of those situations of where critical theory tells us that actually we're not allowed to emulate that content at that point, because you are giving more energy to a problem that you perceive to be critical, and by giving energy to them, you are actually giving them more popularity, because it can be seen as co-signing it rather than as critique of it. So why even adopt the style to begin with? It's like, is that tempting? Is that juicy? I don't fucking
Like, I
know,
mean, I
man.
assume they're just more obsessed with it than the average person is. Like, the whole pro ship debate. I think they like the quote unquote, problematic things that they complain about. The fuck ass puppy girl one is kind of new. I don't know what's problematic about that, really. I just think
Uh,
it's a little strange.
Specifically, fuck ass puppy girl, like that's an actual brand.
Like, somebody, I guess. Well, you told me about the trans puppy girls, and
Yes.
I'm not really aware of what that is and what that entails, or how it's supposed to be problematic or something.
Okay, so you're talking about what I mentioned before. Basically,
Yeah.
it is people that, as we learned from Leadhead, are people who perceive themselves as having a form of play that involves them pretending to be an animal of some type. In this case, a dog. Where it is very easy and very simple for them to push all responsibility off onto some other external factor of themselves because they don't need to be directly involved with the material and the content. They are just a dog. I don't have to be accountable. I don't have to think. I don't have to be a person. I can just let my master deal with the problem because I'm just a dumb puppy. All I have to concern myself with is squirrel and when I'm getting head pats. And head pats.
And so it's like, what the dog doing? War crimes.
No, less war crimes and more. The dog is thinking about the master's dick. Because they don't have to think about real people problems. Their only job is to concern themselves with pleasure. Another way of phrasing it is that it's bimboification, but they apophysize themselves as an animal. So I don't have to think about things, I'm just a dumb girl. I don't have to think about things, I'm just a dumb dog. For most of them, it is just a form of kink play. But for some people, like Leadhead, it is an abdication of responsibility to oneself and how they are involved in the life that they're living. So, in that post that we watched, in that of the back half of the Leadhead content, when in the content, Leadhead's partner said to them, "Is the matter a white woman?" No, it's not always white women. When Leadhead explained that their partner told them, "You might be puppy-brained, but you know right from wrong," that is the signal of them being told, why can't I just let other people deal with my problems? Because you're a grown fucking adult who knows better. You can't just decide to abdicate all responsibility off to somebody else. You're a grown-ass adult who has mortgages and bills to pay. But I don't wanna, is basically the reaction. For them, this is not real. It's a hobby to them. It is a kink. It is a fetish. Everybody else wants them to be responsible for their behavior and their actions. They don't want to do that. So, no matter how much responsibility you ask them to take, they will not take it. Because taking responsibility means that they're not allowed to bitch about problems that are not people's problems. Telling Leadhead that no, you kind of actually need to be a grown-ass adult and you can't just trauma dump on the internet for money from people that support the transgender movement on Patreon. They're not going to do that. They're going to keep making Gonzo-style videos where they trauma dump about their life and insist that they're a better parent than their parent, despite not being able to understand that they are being just as selfish as their mom supposedly is, but isn't, because they don't have proof of this, because they want the outcomes that they would like in their relationships, but they're not willing to pay the cost that comes with being a fully formed adult and a fully responsible human being. Because I'm not a human, I'm a dog.
I did search puppy girl and I found a cavalcade of interesting results. One of them being an image of I'm assuming a trans woman wearing a shirt that says, "Does pup want a treat?" And it's a picture of an estrogen bottle.
You did that to yourself. I didn't make you do that. I wanted to make that clear. I didn't make you search that. Curiosity spayed the cat.
Well, it is one of the safest things I could describe. I mean, it's, it's something, but I'm seeing worse things on here. I'm just saying that.
I know what you're talking about. Everybody else doesn't know what you're talking about. But feel free to Google Puppy Girl and find out for yourself, Stat. I take no responsibility in this. I just told you guys details. But, it's the same philosophy. They're just now applying it to anime weeaboo and weebification. But they've depowered it in a way where it is like going on a scary kiddie ride. It's like going on the Haunted Mansion ride at Disney World. What's supposed to be scary in the mind of a child is just play in the rational mind of an adult. But they want us to act like it's the same thing. And I don't know about you, but I hate Disney adults. Like, I hate them. And this is the simulacrum of the exact same thing. The only difference is that Disney is YouTube, and the ride is talking about video essay topics with a quirky background. Thought I heard my name. It is talking about video essay topics with a quirky background, and saying that any person who knows should know, because they want to perpetually hold an effervescent high ground, where you always will know less than they do, and it's like, all right, bro, you got it, but let me know when you become an adult, and like the rest of the world moves on without them, because they're still stuck in that holding pattern, where for some of them they never matured out of high school. For some of them, they never matured to a point where they were able to mature to have personal relationships that were not superficial. Or they feel that they're owed some type of, desire or some kind of elevation that they didn't get in their youth. A good way of saying it is like the peak comments. Somebody having peaked when they were in their youth. They act in a way that would be not untoward of a person who's reached a pinnacle of success or prowess based on their involvement with other people. And rather than becoming emotionally mature and capable of living an adult life, they have stunted themselves like Al Bundy. But rather than being Al Bundy, completely worried about his high school days, they're still back in the AV club. Still concerned about the fact that they didn't talk to that guy or girl that they really liked. And so, for some of them, they decided to become the girl. And for others, they have decided to take it out on that guy and his hobbies, hoping that this level of social antagonism will undo the amount of regret that they're filled with. They're filled with some, but it's not regret. It's semen. Because for some of them, they became hypersexualized. Leadhead did. For some reason, Leadhead doesn't feel alive unless she is getting stuffed and filled in multiple directions. It's the same case with OnlyFans, and it's the same case with permanently online teenagers. They're incentivizing themselves to become more and more debaucherous as a way to impress their peers, to show off for them. And it is a very useless juncture, because they are not really learning anything that is valuable in doing this. They're just giving the image as if they are, which is the downside. They're unaware of how to carry themselves. They're unaware of how to solve the problems. They're very pseudo-intellectual. They've been taught by other pseudo-intellectuals that this is the way to make content. This is how you grow a channel. And stymied with all that parasocial relationship, they don't know how to make anything else up other than this. So, adding in the anime angle and the, ooh, women should never be looked at as objects, and all the other topics that they can transform into, but what if the character is trans? What if Kairi is trans? What if Kingdom Hearts nobodies are their true selves? What if Naoto is trans? What if this character from Persona, insert number title here, is trans? What if you're trans, and you're playing the experience of a transgender person?
You need to crack that egg, baby.
I'm surprised that we survived this before Danganronpa got involved. Like, I couldn't take this and the Junko disposition shit at the same time. I would have only had enough emotional space for one of them. Barely have emotional space for all of it now, but I would have only had emotional space for like a little bit of this. Like, this shit cooks your brain, dude. This shit cooks your fucking brain. But anyways.
I just kind of laugh at stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I'm being shot. I'm being shot. I really select the both sides of the spectrum, despise people who don't conform to gender standards. Bombs and femboys, you shit on to either being too different or not different enough. Yes! And then it's a death of the middle. Nuance dies, and every topic becomes, well, you're not really willing to have the real conversation. And it's like, okay, include some in the conversation. No, you're chuds, you're not ready for it. Okay, I don't care. Wait, come back. Don't you want to hear about how you're dirty and sinful? Nah, too busy fucking cheats. Can't hear the sound of all this pleasure I'm having. If it weren't for the fact that many of them are very loud and proud about their debauchery, you'd think that they were prudes. And I'm pretty sure some of them are. Like, you can suck that guy's dick, and you can choose to record yourself doing content on the internet to get money from being debaucherous, but you can't have a slow dance with your immediate partner? Curious. Very curious. These, of course, are not my problems. They're their problems, but, you know. People are people. People are people. I don't know, what's your opinion?
Opinion on which thing?
People having their brain on Slash.
Ugh. Well, going to extremes is never good. Like, you know, I think it's important for people to maintain a balance. I mean, I brought it up before, but I think maybe part of the reason for that stuff is, like, maybe people being kind of, like, repressed or not knowing when to show restraint. Or a combination of the two. Because, like, I know this kind of gets brought up in, like, the trad crowds and, like, you know, born again Christians where they kind of go all in of, like, you know, no sex, no porn, you know, no amount of pleasure is allowed, and then so for some reason or another they get exposed for being like an Omega Gooner.
I would be more forgiving if it came from a place of health, if not from a case of delusion, because I am not a therapist. I cannot help delusion. I also cannot help somebody who cannot admit that they have a problem. It is probably the hardest. It's probably the hardest lesson that you can be forcibly taught, trying to save every motherfucking body. Because once you figure that lesson out, the Captain Save-A-Ho leaves your system like that. I'm thinking it didn't snap very well. But leaves your situation like that. Like, you cannot save people who do not want to save themselves. And at the same time of not wanting to save them, you cannot be expected to be the one that's going to do the hard work for them, and they can't be involved with their part of the equation. Like, it's the most irritating shit in existence. Can't do it. Can't be forced to do it. Don't want to do it. If they make me get involved in a way that I don't want to be, it's gonna make me sick. And all that other dark shit that people usually bring up.
Yeah, don't make me vomit. Cause like, listen to that. Those guys talk and saying they want to, ban pornography and stuff. And it's like, okay, you guys do that. Then what else you gonna do? You gonna like wag your finger at people who masturbate without that?
Yes.
It's like, what are you gonna do? You gonna lock them up? You gonna tell them to go to jail?
They are going to punish them and flog them, and then by good God, if grace be willing, flog them again.
Yeah.
That is the plan. Most of them tried to browbeat us like this during the SJW days, but it didn't really take because a lot of us stopped caring. They lost a lot of power, especially over the last few years. You can only...
I mean, yeah, they did.
You can only scare and terrify us so much before we tell you to fuck off. But then...
Well, it's more like, I think there was more info, kind of like sexual health stuff, saying like, it's not just like, you're not gonna kill yourself if you jack off once every blue moon or so. You're not gonna go crazy.
I don't even think really go that far. I'm willing to call these people's bluffs.
Well, I mean, people, do this whole thing like, if you, touch yourself and you do all that stuff, it's gonna like break your body down and make you less healthy. This kind of was what I was getting at.
I mean, in general, it's good for you to bust a nut because it's gonna relieve a lot of fucking stress. Half these people are half cooked out of their gourd because they're under so much undue stress that they put onto themselves with their never-ending crusades. If they didn't do that, they wouldn't have those problems anymore. That's not up to me, that's up to them. They have to decide that they're not going to do that to themselves anymore. So, it's a crapshoot no matter which way it goes. It's the section of society that we don't look over at and that we do not have the answer for. Lack of impulse control leading to toxic ritualistic behavior is the phrase I'm looking for. Thanks, Wheezy. It is not my problem, but that doesn't mean that I do not think about it. Because ignoring the problem in people who you do not have countenance over is one thing. It is another thing entirely to disconnect yourself and say to others that I don't have to take accountability on this thing that I am involved with, because since it is your problem, not my problem, I just have to sit here and watch. It's not quite the Batman gambit. Because if you're just constantly saying, not my circus, not my monkeys, you're being a misanthrope. You're not actually being disconnected.
I mean, like I brought up yesterday when we were talking about, like, I don't know if I linked that video, because it was a video that was uploaded by Harmful Opinions around December, where he was talking about like a specific grifter guy that was like promoting NoFap, and like it was a paid course specifically for young boys and teenagers, and he was pointing out how kind of like inappropriate that was.
I mean, it's obvious. It's just like the fucking sissy recovery guy trying to tell people how he recovered from his sissy porn addiction by just mentally manning and praying the homosexual thoughts away.
No.
Like, there's a clear distinction of the kind of people who have an unironic problem where they need to have somebody who is advocating for them to be their sponsor. Where, as I put it last night, you know you have a drinking problem, Clyde. You know how you get when rum gets in your system. So no drinking. And you have to remind them, no drinking. Listen, no drinking. Okay. Well, just a little bit. It's a celebration. No, you know how you get. I get frisky when I have whiskey. That's right. So you don't get no liquor. Because when I get liquor, I liquor. It's okay, buddy. It's okay. We can deal with that. He knows he has a problem. It's a long road to salvation, but if he stays on the straight and narrow, he comes out on the other side clean as a fucking whistle. And then everybody's there like, you did it, Clyde. You kicked it. Now you can have as much liquor as you want. Yeah! And I'm going to learn to drink in moderation. Because when I put my hands on Sheila, that's when I've gone too far. But the way that these guys act, the problem takes the structure of a critical theory. And the thing about critical theories is that if it's a problem that's so pervasive that we have to stop everything we're doing right now and address that problem with the energy it deserves, who's going to be the first one to take the shot? Who amongst you will be the first to get this lick? Who's going to do it? Because I'm not going to be the first one that becomes the test dummy. It was your idea. Well, you can go first. You want to go first? I'm not going first. Fuck you if I go first. Not my problem. I'm not the one with the problem. Why do I have to give up the things that I love? Because you say so. The fuck? Do I look like I fall for shit like that? No. Doesn't matter who the fuck suggests it to me. Even if it were my woman. Because you had me fall all the way fucked up. I think not. And it usually comes from a place of trickery. So I inherently wouldn't trust it to begin with anyways. Like, it'd be one thing if, okay, I understand he's coming from a place like this. Hey, God, I'm trying to choke to death. Ah! The ghost is trying to kill me. I'm speaking too many truths. He's trying to take me out of this world, chat. Save me. If they were the ones willing to lead the charge, right? So let's put this in terms of last night. That fucking struggle session that JDA tried to smash JT through. If you are willing to tell me porn is a problem, okay, right. It manipulates and brings contention amongst the masses. Yes, okay. It is an action of the devil that takes place of your idle hands, and it poisons the mind of my brothers and sisters. Right, preach, brother. And so, I am willingly giving up the coos for a month. Yes, sir. Praise the Lord. Yes, sir. Get down with it. Get low in the squat. Get low in the squat. Get low in the squat. Then praise the Lord. I'm cool with it. I'm fine. It's based. You come to me and say, coochie is a devilish sin. And that's why you need to give it up. And the hell I will. I don't have a problem with my consumption. Change this in terms of gender norms, gender expression, and the dreaded sin that every comedian that has ever worked in show business all has to contend with. Being forced to put on a dress. I ain't getting that goddamn dress. I don't know what the fuck to tell you, bro. My name is not Rakeem Smiley. My name is not Tyler Perry. I am not wearing a dress to help you in solidarity with your gender expression and your struggle to identify as is. I went through my struggle. I know what I like. That's why I know I'm bisexual. Like, I am healed. I am gay sometimes.
He delivered.
But like, if they want everybody else to jump in on the bandwagon, like we really are living in black future, I will not be the first black man that takes somebody to the breeding pits. Can't do it. Get out of office to do that shit. They desperately want to do that. That's not my job. Not my job. Stop asking me. I don't care. And then learn to laugh at yourselves, because that's the other problem. It's a synergistic cycle of self-actualization that never truly achieves its conclusion because they all have a failure to launch. And maybe the parents can't do it. Maybe some bullying on the internet from people like myself will get them to do it. Maybe they'll realize, this is stupid. I've been wasting my time. Let me go live my life. And we'll stop hearing about it, finally. Until then, I don't know. I'm just a goofy goober on the internet. I'm a goof and goober incantating words, phrases, and grunts in a way that is humorous to the rest of you. Things have worked out so far. For some reason, you people give me money. Carl said with a wink and a smile. But anywho, that is more or less it. Also, you have hit an hour.
Okay.
Anything you want to tell to people before you go?
What do you mean tell people?
You have a voice. You can use it.
I'm just saying, guys, don't be like Cole.
Stay on the cookie, but
Be true to yourself.
cream.
Then go therapy. Talk to your friends if you have issues.
If anything, try to make sense of yourself with your partners and your parents. Tell your parents that you love them. If you haven't in a while, make sure that you do. Try to make peace with yourself and with your life so that you don't go and become a susceptible target of breadtube. Make sure to laugh at yourself often and attempt to think of the reasons why it is important for you to stay on the straight and narrow, because it'll help your loads be easier to carry so that you don't have to worry about being lost. It is probably the best advice any of us can give you, especially if your thoughts are getting extremely intrusive. Anything else you wanted to say to the people?
That's it.
Okay. Good. Wave goodbye.
Okay, bye.
Whee! Wonderful God. Great talk. Let me go through some of the chats that I missed because I was too busy doing my job. Cough, 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 cough. Scrolling so far back. Hoodweaves and COVID anime fans. Hoodweaves and COVID anime fans are probably the biggest part of why all of this shit keeps happening as frequently as it does. If during COVID I could have been asked by God, Carl, what would you prefer? People randomly decide to become streamers and then quit when they realize that it takes a lot of effort and there's not a lot of money in it, or people become fans of anime. I would prefer there have been more streamers than there be the amount of people who got involved into making content online. Because we don't have enough consistent creators as is, but if we have to pick between which one is more important and which one is more caustic, random people suddenly finding immediate fame on TikTok, but they never actually interact with other people that have the hobby. They are only ever in their own bubble, and therefore they just start saying shit that goes unchallenged. It's the same energy as random fucking pros that play a video game like Marvel Rivals, giving a talking point that is irrelevant to the state of the game, and then everybody takes their word as gospel because the person in question is supposed to be a really good player, but their action is unearned. And people completely tell that the opinion is dog shit, but they go along with it anyways because they know that there is clout in agreeing with them simply because, rather than having their own mind and accepting that we don't have to do a damn thing they say, and having given them the time in which to express this annoyance did nothing to solve problems, but only added to them. Because they don't really like anime, and they don't like anything on Netflix either to begin with. I and Jay watch a lot of fucking trash. Like, a lot of fucking trash. It's probably some of our best pastimes whenever we're not roasting some piece of content on a live stream. And the people who often would be the first ones to defend shit, so Fictional Darling attempting to defend She-Hulk, Straw Hat Goofy trying to defend any particular dog take that's coming up because he is an industry accessor, so he's a fucking plant. Random fucking dog shit from people like Dark Viper AU, desperate for attention and involvement. Regular crap that comes up on the regular, from things like G40 to even a little bit of that fucking material that we get from creators like Ryan Coogler and Jordan Peele. Or happenstance with content like The Blackening, coming from media figures that basically only exist on microblogging websites. So, the majority of their content being that material that they made specifically to get that involvement and that reaction. Especially if they're somebody like media figures such as Ali, or that one black comedian whose name's slipping my mind, who is alongside Ali Wong on Tuca and Birdie, and other fucking animation projects like that, that would have belonged on Adult Swim if Adult Swim didn't go the way of misery-porn communists. Or the never-ending content that comes from things like Big Mouth. And even though Big Mouth itself has its fun at times, since Nick Kroll and his group of comedians are Jewish in nature, they aren't given the same kind of pass that would have been given to the creator of Family Guy, or the creators of Simpsons, or the creators of Futurama. Most of them have pulled away from that. You know, they're pulled away from being Seth MacFarlane, or the two people who were responsible for the founding of The Simpsons before The Simpsons became the Zombie Simpsons. But there is a cost that is associated with allowing such dog shit to just proliferate without criticism. Doesn't mean that they can't exist and that they're not allowed to exist and therefore our opinions are better than theirs. It's just like, I can say the show is dog shit. If I can criticize the CW shows, or Jay can criticize the CW shows, or fucking even myself with horror, when I choose to watch something, could criticize this dog shit, or we collectively watch something as an audience with Scooby, or rather Velma, and we can declare it's dog shit, it is possible that we can come away with an understanding of, yeah, this material is not that good, and it not be the end of the goddamn world, like some people tend to act like it is. And half the fucking problem was created by them not willing to just say, look, you just found out about this shit. You might not like Blue Exorcist. You might not like Fire Force. You might not like My Hero Academia. Especially if you're reading between the manga and the live. Or the update post of the second season and the third season and the fourth season and the movie and the summer movie and the spring movie. I'm not going to make you watch Bet. You offered. I said that it might be a thing. If anyone's going to end up watching it for certain, it's going to be myself and Jay, because I'm going to make her have to take it in. Then there's an element of that where that live action push from Netflix is definitely responsible. Because it was like this for Cowboy Bebop, and that actress is now coping and seething. It was like this for material content like One Piece and I don't know how to describe this era of film. It's content that is like a live action anime, but it's not actually. They're not adaptations. They're just shitty remakes. Where they watched content just to say that they watched a piece of content. And they talk about it like it's the biggest thing since sliced bread. But they are incapable of watching anything else in its entirety. And they make everybody around them miserable with the shit that they're watching. I don't know how to describe this piece of work without calling it like pseudo anime slop. They watched so much dog shit material because they either were just getting used to having access to premium cable for the first time, or they desperately thought that their opinions and their worldview was the missing factor to deeper understand this material that they were having and consuming. Like, once they were the ones to give their take, suddenly they understood this whole video essayist thing. I 100% blame that time period. Because if they were just happy fans, they didn't just take everything under a goddamn advisory watch. Like, they have to be the ones that give the final arbitration on whether or not something is truly pedo shit or not. They would be happier. But instead, they made the rest of all of us miserable. And I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of the fact that they made themselves and everybody else miserable. Because they can't accept that their worldview is the only worldview. Which leads to a bunch of shows being dog shit to begin with anyways. Catching up here. What kind of anime fan am I? If I like Berserk, Chainsaw Man, Cowboy Bebop, My Joseph Darling, Spy X Family, but I skipped the popular shit like Dragon Ball, One Piece, My Hero Academia, and other stuff. It makes you an anime fan. It makes you an anime fan that doesn't necessarily like long-running tokusatsu elevated, but generally shonen level content. You have to watch the anime again. I do watch you, Jay, but I'll have thoughts because I love the animation. I see. True anime fans will look back at the old show and do a little back beer shuffle, more or less. COVID number. Most left-wing spaces are just filled with fake folk and people willing to use the Vehelet to their own gain. Yes. Which is why most people are pulling away from them in the general sense. The hypocrisy is so exhausting. Also, her desperate gluttonous need for affection. When it comes to Leadhead and her need for affection, I don't know what to say to that. It's been a while since I've seen that level of desperation. Usually, you hear about people who are really into the kind of person who would beg for it and yearn. But there's something about Leadhead and their desire for attention and their need for affection that makes me a little scared. I don't know how else to describe it other than it makes me scared. Because what stops Leadhead from, like, wanting to live in your skin? You know? I don't know about you, but what stops them from trying to live in your skin? It appears to me that Leadhead wants to live in my skin. If they could take the quintessential essence of what makes me a man, they would take it. By force. Under knife and needle. So I'd be scared to let any person be in a room with them alone for too long. They might actually try to suck your dick and or try to take your skin. I feel bad that that's what I feel when I see them talk and when they speak about things that they talk about. But, like, not my circus, not my monkeys. Back to reading. There's trauma and it's being forced to go to church on Sunday every morning. Some of them, definitely. Are we talking Ted Bundy type shit? Yes! Yes, I am. No, Carl, I'm not looking up Puppet Girl on Google. I'm not responsible for the buttons you press, one week. Indulgences are undoing. I really dislike that both sides of the spectrum. I read this. To give another passing thought to this statement from Bogdan, it happens more to the men than it does the women. And it happens more to the white men than it does the black men. They sometimes catch some people, you know? Sometimes they pull Jay Aubrey, and they turn Jay Aubrey into what the fuck ever he's transforming to. And D'Angelo Wallace into whatever the fuck he is transforming into. They can't get people like me. Because I firmly knew I love women. I don't want to be a woman. I want to be with a woman. For the boys that were not raised as black males, they come from a culture of society where they are basically being made into ready-made women by the feminization of their thoughts and their mind. The men coming from the black community, at best, they would become gay men who would have a sense of masculinity about themselves. Because sassy ass niggas are made when you take a black child and you harass the shit out of them with female speech and agitation when all that guy wants to be is left the fuck alone. So we're ready-made to resist this kind of fucking influence because we can't be shamed into silence. I might not speak in the moment, but you're not going to stop me from having an opinion or mindset. Period. Whereas the cultural imperialism has one shot unfulfilled millennials like cracked in the inner city. Bingo, Callum! Bingo! Keep reading, keep reading. If you cannot live up to the standards you claim to hold, why should I care? True stick, true shit. And then we'll hang back here. We're back at the front. Alright, who's next? I see Lemon Duck. I pull Lemon Duck.
Hello?
Hello, how can I help you, Lemon Duck?
I was kind of pulled off the spot and was just listening to you rant.
Okay.
Like, what were you talking about earlier?
Specifically with Safinet? You're asking what I was talking about specifically with Safinet? Lemon Duck?
Yeah.
Well, we were just going over the same sheet she presented yesterday on Yap-In 11 from inside a Geistwind, which was the material that she brought me about an artist who decided to make a short film about transgenderism from the viewpoint of a fan who really, really loved a specific type era of moe animation. But they used it as a way to make a dossier short film piece, which was akin to I Saw the TV Turn Purple. Or I Saw the TV Girl is actually the name of the movie. Which is basically a discovering story about finding themselves as a pseudo-debaucherous fan that is a fan of a type of animation that they find icky and pervasive, but they just can't get enough of it. That then led into a deeper conversation about how it's not everybody's fault or problem, and to repeat the words about that material that I did for my video refuting Pillboy and Defty Signifier. Rather than anti-blackness, transgenderism and transgender speech and ideology is everywhere, and it's not our problem. Go to therapy. Many of them are unhealed, unhealthy people that have yet to truly accept themselves as they are and are in constant want and in search of need of love from different efforts and sources, hoping that other people will give them the calm that they want, despite the fact that they cannot find peace because they are not able to achieve peace without another person's involvement. So rather than finding themselves as healthy, rational adults and human beings, they rather would like to obsess to others about their problem, and then they ask those people to be the ones to give them solution and solace. So, to take from the thing that Horror showed me the other week, that content creator in the ACC who basically lied to his friends about being some type of monster groomer and was instead trying to conglomerize their time and attention. Where, how am I going to learn to have better lessons unless you're there to teach me? You can't cut me off from support. It's not my problem. It's not our goal. We're not the ones who have to deal with it. And it's not on us to be the ones to teach you how to manage it. There is a serious, real problem with that. But the other side of the issue, which is what I discussed, is that if they're willing to lead the charge, they take interest in their own intervention, and they are really willing to make serious concessions and serious conservation concerns to addressing the problem for what it is, and they're willing to see it through to the end, people would be more receptive to this information and would even support them in their journey. But it's always the necessary goal of a struggle session that instead of it being for their own benefit, they expect other people to engage in the behavior that they say they need to do in order to have civility brought upon them. And I should not have to do that. It is not my job. It is not your job either. We have done as much as we can. It's not our fault, because we weren't there in the room usually when this kind of problem happens. It's not on us to be the ones that have to seek solutions to the problem. We should just be capable of addressing that there are serious concerns, and no matter those concerns, we will do our part to try and be a helpful guide and a helping hand and a soft, gentle hand on the back to assist them towards their road of redemption. But it's never about redemption, it is about other shit. However, that's beyond the curve. We already talked about that. What do you want to talk to me about?
What's... Do you think that do you think it would be a better chance for you to make a better canon of both Legends and the official one?
Of what?
Like Star Wars?
Would it be better for you to make a better official canon for Star Wars than the current team working on Star Wars Legends?
No, current team working on Star Wars canon.
I guess? Why specifically you?
Because I'm a really big Star Wars fan, and I feel like it's gone downhill mostly today.
Okay, tell me about that. Tell me about the thing that you don't like about Star Wars.
And basically, modern day Star Wars is just basically a constant, I don't know. It's a lot of content to get through because it's overmashed everywhere, and I feel like for a series such as this, it should be not overproduced towards the mainline stuff. Even though in the past it kind of was, because it was obscure like that.
Okay.
But it's mainly just the point of me really not liking what the internet did to Star Wars.
The internet did to Star Wars, or a current content creator did to Star Wars?
The internet in general.
Okay. Hold that thought for 1 second. Are you calling me? I can't hear you. Okay, continue. You keep saying ums and likes and uhs, which makes me feel like it's not necessarily a very strong opinion that you have about Star Wars. So what do you think critically is the problem that caused Star Wars to become bad? Let's start there.
I feel like partially has to do with the buyout with Disney and plus the internet in general. Just from the start of the prequel era, which was the start of its downfall, to currently now, it's a mess, and I feel like it has to do with like the Phantom Menace.
Okay. Why do you think that? And why do you feel that is?
If people were just like less like lax with like, if people were more relaxed with Star Wars, I feel like we wouldn't be in this situation where Disney had it, and like made most of the shit it did.
So you feel that the prequels are the reason why things like the sequel series were created and made, and thus are bad?
No, I feel like the response to the prequel series is what like caused all this.
Okay. In what way?
So like how in essence, like most people were just like judging and making fun of the series, and like that one infamous like documentary where it says like George Lucas raped something whatever.
Okay. George Lucas is accused of raping the Star Wars canon with the prequels, and people's reaction to the prequels and finding them either boring or unfunny, but having not a proper appreciation of them, is the reason why Star Wars canon, once it was sold by George Lucas to Disney, became worse in the sequel era.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I would disagree, but I would like you to further explain what exactly is like the exact essence of that and what caused it. Because blaming the internet isn't helpful since we already know who was responsible. And it was Kathleen Kennedy. Like, Kathleen Kennedy was the catalyst point of doing it because she was the one who had the liaison, who had the minds, who had the groups, who hired the actors, who told them to behave a certain way, who told them to act a certain way, who told the actors to behave a certain way when they were taking revision on statuses, effectively was the one who ran the gambit and was responsible for all of the backlash that came with the material. I don't say that to contravene you, but I do say it to, like, get a stronger answer out of you. Because I feel like the internet ruined Star Wars isn't really what you're trying to get to the point of. Because I feel like you should have a stronger answer than that. Why blame the entire internet as a whole? Who on the internet exactly? What groups?
Well, hold up. Hold up. Oh, like basically the people at Red Letter Media. That's what I'm saying.
Red Letter Media? Red Letter Media ruined Star Wars?
Or at least cause like a big black backlash of like
Explain that.
I sort of feel like the review was like infamous enough, like the sort of whole like train rail of like stuff that happened to the point for like where we are now.
Okay. I'm gonna give you an extra hour and 15 minutes to explain this because now I'm lost and I actually want a full, complete conversation about this because I want to see where you're going with this. So, Red Letter Media is responsible for the downfall of Star Wars because they critique Star Wars.
Not like critique Star Wars, just like laid this foundation for like making fun of the prequels at least without any like nuance of like how they made the film at least.
Okay. What specific critique from members of Red Letter Media are you exactly referring to when you say that their opinions were what the internet latched onto? Who said it, and when did they say it, and what video was it said in?
You know the Plinkett reviews?
Okay, the Plinkett reviews. The Plinkett reviews that are specifically made by Rich and them as a demonstration of what they find as satire, right? So the Plinkett reviews about the prequels.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like, I don't think like they're satire. I just feel like you wouldn't go for like making a review that's like 1 to 7 hours and just like blanket reviews is just like satire. It just feels like an excuse to me.
Well, not saying that their entire viewpoint starts from a position that has no energy to it, that would not be seen as a critical dissertation as well as a breakdown. But we are also putting a lot of heavy lifting on it being squarely on the soldiers of Red Letter Media. Wouldn't you want to first blame people like Patrick Wilhelms for saying things like consistency in writing is not important because plot holes aren't important? Wouldn't that be a person you would definitely want to blame this on?
Yes, exactly.
But then that's not Red Letter Media, though, because Patrick Wilhelms is not a part of Red Letter Media.
Can I step in? Can I
Sure.
make an observation?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
so there's an observation I've made with the several times that you've popped in here, Dr. Lemon Duck. You seem to get very quickly offended by people just stating they don't like something, and you have a very emotional reaction to it, and you can't pinpoint exactly why it causes you this kind of reaction, why it causes you to feel so offended.
Yeah, it's a problem. It usually happens. I usually try to avoid it.
Yeah, I think number one, you need to, just because I see it especially with the criticisms that you have over the prequel trilogy. There's a difference between criticism and just shitting on something. And the way you described it, because I don't watch Red Letter Media, I have very little to do with them. I have little to no experience watching their content. It seems like they were just making criticisms of what arguably is subpar in comparison to the original trilogy. And you got really upset about that, and you're not sure why.
Mm-hmm.
Because I as somebody who loves the prequel trilogy, can say that, yeah, there's a lot of problems with it. There's a lot of problems with lack of direction, because you have a stellar cast. That cast, with any other director besides George Lucas, would have rocked the shit out of that trilogy. But because there's a lack of direction, it didn't come off as well as it could have. So, unless they're needlessly ragging on things with the prequel trilogy, you can't really say that they're the cause of where this canon Star Wars has gone.
If anything...
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You have a point.
So, like...
Go
ahead.
You have a point. I really just said most of those things because, like, I was just put on the spot. Like, the spot that, like, talked about it. Like,
it's okay to say that you're not sure why you feel a certain way. It's okay to say that, but it's better you say that than try to make something up and then we pick you apart for it. Because that's not what we want to do, but that's what we have to do when you give us answers like that and can't really put words to it.
Yeah, because I'm extremely interested in why you believe that it's the internet's fault. That's not to pick you apart and be like, yeah, I'm gonna make red meat tonight. I don't know where you're going with this, because I know for all of the content that has ever been made by Red Letter Media, they will be the most straight up and upfront and clear. Cinemassacre does this. They do this. Whenever Macaulay Culkin's been involved in their products, they always do so from a position of loving slop. The best of the works is inspired by their love of slop. And the Plinkett reviews are the review of people who understand and appreciate the franchises for what they are, but they have clear annoyance with the fact that they have grown up to an age where their products that they have been fans of have been thoroughly desecrated by people who do not like their products, as they are the originator of the meme saying, feels great. So when you say the internet at large is at fault, and you feel like you're umming and awing through it to come up with an answer, that's not what a person who's burning with passion would say. So when you first say, I think that I should be the person who replaces it. Okay, base, good, great, why? Because I expect you to come with the energy of Sam Witwer. You know who Sam Witwer is, right?
No.
That's okay. Sam Witwer is probably one of the quintessential fans of Star Wars, to the point that his fandom of concepts got him his job as various different characters. He's the voice of Starkiller. He is one of the many people who was the writers responsible for explaining the character of some of these people in the content that they chose to put forward. Star Wars Rebels, for example, things from the Clone Wars, things during the Force Unleashed era. He is what we look at as a elevated superfan. And many of the times that he referred to plenty of pieces of content whenever he's been asked to do so. With his saber fighting, with his acting, with his writing, he is a person that explains this particular detail about this character, like Darth Maul, is responsible for why this character and this character in the prequels could have never met. Because George Lucas put in a detail, for example, where Anakin Skywalker, when he meets General Grievous, apparently has never met him at any point in time to ever know what he physically looks like. So, during the Clone Wars, as they put together that series, both intonations, I guess, in this canon, there are multiple times throughout the series that they had to write it in such a way where this character never met the other character, so that this line would make sense in that material. Same thing with the character of Ezra, or any involvement with characters like Ahsoka Tano, post Clone Wars, or even during the Clone Wars, to explain how she survived Order 66 and the training that Anakin gave her so that she would be fine. Or the relationship between the clones, or even the relationship of characters like Jango Fett or Boba Fett becoming as they have been in post-non-Legends canon with all these goddamn streaming shows. He is the quintessential example of a fan that's like, the reason why I should be put in charge of this is that you guys clearly don't know how to make use of material that's in front of you. And you're not using any of the Legend canon or even any of the inspired, elevated sequels canon to your best benefit. I expected you to come out with the energy of a super fan that's like, this is bad because this doesn't make sense with this, because why the fuck are you doing this, and this? And why is this wrong? So, I gave you an example. Canto Blight. The reason they go to Canto Blight is that they're supposed to be going to a place to deal with a super weapon, to deal with the Death Killer base, and the information that they need to get from that one particular person in Canto Blight who has to give them information who's in the prison cell. While they are there, they release those animals that are a part of the racetracks, the equivalent of racehorses. By releasing these racehorses, they probably created more property damage and more destruction that led to possible lives being lost in the chaos from the escape sequence than they needed to for anything to do with espionage of getting in and getting out that person that they needed information from. To the point that in the criticism of fascism bad, capitalism bad, greed bad, gambling bad, what about the slaves? The force-sensitive slaves they decided to tease at the end with the broom, that are the ones that are responsible for cleaning up problems. The rebels, in their desire to try and resist against the First Order, end up creating problems for the civilians that they're trying to save, to the point that you can use it as a reflection of, oh, I don't know, the Palestinian-Israeli crisis. People who desperately want freedom for the Palestinians in the PLO, but the reflection of how badly this group that are considered not Hamas are creating worse problems for the people they're supposed to be trying to liberate. This is really bad story writing. How could they have people who are supposed to be on the ground understanders of the political crisis so stupid as to realize they're creating a worse condition that then leads to people wanting to not be involved with the problems that are happening on Canto Blight and in the galaxy proper? Or why are they choosing to use all this energy around making a Death Star if at any time they could have just launched off from the planet of Exegol and committed the actions of the First Order? And why did they need to make this sound like pseudo-Trumpian logic? Because they were that hateful of what was designed from J.J. Abrams' involvement to Rian Johnson's involvement. They put all this energy into shit that didn't go anywhere. I know how to make all this shit connect together, and I can do it like that, Carl. I was worried that you were lost, and it's like, oh shit, I walked in here without a thing to talk about. What if this, Carl? And I'm like, okay. And then as you start talking about it, I'm like, why are you lost? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not slighting you for it, but I am concerned. So, do you still want to talk about that, or do you want to talk about something else?
We could talk about, like, what is the definition of, like grimdark?
Okay, what is the definition of grimdark? You just want a textbook definition of what grimdark is?
Yeah.
What genre?
Wait, grimdark has genres?
Yes. Grimdark is more or less an adjective that enhances something. It is what people try to say when they say something Dark Soulsian. Usually, my best intonation and deference in this situation, grimdark usually means something that has happening before the end or long since after the end. The bad thing that was going to destroy the world has already come, and now we're living in the post-consequences of that thing happening. A good example I can give is that a recent game that came out by the name of Look Outside is a game that features an SCP concept of a world being destroyed by the existence of a Lovecraftian horror who does not realize that their perception upon our universe is causing untold levels of irreparable damage on the human race, because it is perceiving us and reshaping us in the image of itself when it does so, slowly corrupting the human into what becomes not human. Uncanny valley levels of unhuman. It's great pixel art, it's great pixel work. The demo versions that they kept putting out were close to the example of what they wanted to work with, and over time it developed itself into the product that it currently is now. And in this concept, as a part of the perfect ending of this game, if the character defeats the prophets, who are the people who put you on a mission to go discover things that can hold the image of the creature that is currently looking over the people, and you confront it, and you refuse the final question of it wanting to know what it looks like, because from the perspective of the person, it looks like an eye staring into the sky. But it's not actually an eye, it's a finger, and it's appendage, and it's a limb, and it's a mass, and it's a giant body. And the more and more you learn about it, it makes space in your brain for you to know about it. If you refuse to know what it truly is, and it leaves, the human player, Sam, takes on the image of this giant Leviathan creature, but he retains his sanity in doing so. And in this post-world, where people have been manipulated into these creatures, some of them, the good ones, have retained their sanity, but they've been irrevocably changed into an eldritch-like abomination of Lovecraftian horror. But the world is able to recover, and even though your mass of size continues to grow to the point that you cover the entire planet, instead of the world being destroyed, the world is rebuilt over time with your assistance as this all-feeling, all-seeing, all-knowing abomination that might as well be the form of a type of god. Most grimdarks are supplanted with an additional affix that makes it different. So, grimdark high fantasy pretty much means the evil villain won. Whatever outcome they created in the world has been created from the consequences they had. If they wanted to summon a deep dark old one, they succeeded, and the world has been torn apart by the deep dark one's desire. The evil person is dead, but we now have to now deal with the ramifications and consequences of their outcomes. Grimdark horror some grand elevation of concept has gotten to the final end. So, if you use something like, what is that film that's called? The one with the guy who goes crazy because he's in a pseudo-narrative, where he's laughing at the screen with all the crosses. I can't remember the name of it. Horror, I think you know what the name of it is.
What name?
It's a film from like the 70s, 80s, or 90s that features a character that is inside of a fictional meta-narrative of a book that he's written that's being made fulfilled by an eldritch abomination beyond the pages that's trying to come into the world. And he ends up, the final scene is that he ends up in a movie theater where he's watching the plot of what he just survived through happening, and he starts going mad and crazy. There's other films that are like that, like The Mist, which is basically something that comes from the Dark Tower franchise, which pretty much can all be considered grimdark, depending on your viewpoint. But in the case of The Mist, some type of experiment at a military base allows creatures from beyond the veil, from the same realm that Pennywise is from, to enter into the human world, and the humans are dealing with the consequences of that creature. Or, if you want to take the example of something like The Thing, there is a alternate universe story where the Thing breaks containment and has taken over the world. Everybody is almost killed by the Thing, and it's filled with things that are trying to eliminate the last vestiges of humankind, wherever it can discover and find them. And you're one of those survivors in that world. Grimdark is a philosophy of taking a concept and then elevating that concept to what do you do when the world has reached the apocalypse, and how do you survive post-apocalypse. Sometimes some stories start from a post-apocalyptic stance. Some stories start from in medias res of explaining how we got to the apocalypse. But generally, if you have a grimdark story, you have to start with a premise. And if you are not able to hold ontological inertia, the story falls apart. So you can't just do, for example, working off of Anthony Gramucci's attempt to try and make grimdark out of Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon is already grimdark. It might not seem like it, but it is already dealing with a philosophy and a concept that has Usagi and her friends deal with the reality that they come from a world that is dealing with ideas of perception, ideas of personality, ideas of fulfilling a justice and an order and a duty that they have to fulfill as Sailor Senshi, a consequence of feeling burdens that they cannot fulfill on their shoulder, being fulfilled by the things they have to give up, by the consequences that they don't want for themselves, and how they just want to be normal girls, but they have to take on the burdens of the world that is burdened onto them and nobody else can have them because it's Usagi's daughter who tells her as such. It is the future that she has to learn how to navigate and deal with. Grimdark is something that could be simple or could be complex, but starts from a basic general plot synopsis, which is that the world has ended or is coming to an end, and this is what we're doing to stop it, fix it, or prevent it. It can be
would a series like Madness Combat be considered grimdark?
Madness Combat. Crinkle's Madness Saga. Sometimes, yes. A lot of the time, some stories don't have plots that build to each other, and that's because some stories are not meant to be canon. But in the case of Crinkle's Madness, yes, it is more or less a world after the end, where it's a wasteland. You've got characters of a different place, of different types in different places, going all over the place, doing whatever the fuck they choose to do. And here's the clown, and the clown being infected by a sense of madness that corrupts every other thing around it. And you got Jesus, and you got the Antichrist, and it's a whole bunch of shit.
I don't think the Antichrist is in there, but we do have a portal to hell.
Well, the Antichrist is made when Jesus dies, and then he comes back from the dead, and has been corrupted by the same corruption that Crinkles is spreading around. For whatever way that you want to put it, yeah, you can consider that a thing that exists as a type of grimdark. Most people usually reach for Dark Souls because it's easy to show how Dark Souls is grimdark because it's right there on the surface.
And also like Warhammer.
Warhammer's a good example too. It's not so much that it's grimdark because the world has come to an end, but it's grimdark because it's a very brutalist world. Brutality being rampant is usually what I would say is one of the detrimental things you require in order to be able to tell a grimdark story. If you're just dealing with elevated high fiction or urban fiction, that's not necessarily grimdark. But if you elevate it by showing that we're in a war for the species, it's sort of human survival requires us to be like this because it's us or them, that would be a case of grimdark. But then you have to have balance because you can't just be masturbatory about the amount of death and danger that people are involved in. You have to show how the death and danger truly is being afflicted and affected by the material that is at your detriment. Otherwise, you're just telling scary stories. And while some people do like scary stories, you have to be willing to own the concept that you're trying to communicate. Because if you don't communicate the concept in the way that you want to communicate the danger and the terror, people are going to get bored. Because it's grimdark, which means it can't be fucking stuffy and huggy and okay and safe because shit turns out okay for you. Like, there needs to be some sense of impending danger if you were to stay in a place for too long. Which then speaks to the horror of liminal spaces.
Like the back rooms.
Well, yes, the back rooms would be a case of liminal spaces, but I'm speaking more about the element of the danger that exists in the world. So, the idea of the thing, what makes it grimdark, is that you have men in isolation that no longer can trust each other, because any one of them could be an alien pretending to be human, hoping to get them alone and kill them, and add its biomass to its form, and slowly make a way to then invade civilization. And if it was to get to civilization, life as we know it would come to an end. Everyone's fucked if this thing gets out. In a world taken over by something like the Thing, you can't trust any living creature. If you didn't know who that living creature was, if you can't prove that that thing is not some type of hybrid that has now developed a resistance to discovery, a resistance to light, a resistance to fire, a resistance to cold, and is able to fake being human well enough that it is able to beat tests that otherwise in the franchises and in the franchise games that people consider to be good enough. Most people reject the prequel because the prequel's really bad. I would say the original John Carpenter work and The Thing from Another World and the short story Who Goes There would be the starting point. If we were to live in a world where you can't tell if a person is a thing or not, you would be scared of every living creature around you. Because any living creature could be a thing. We know it can take over animals. We know it can replace the cells of any living object. What if a thing could replicate a plant? And what you think is a tree is actually a giant thing waiting for you to get in its mouth. Like, waiting to try and use it to, like, make a campfire. And so, once you've developed the technology to discover what is a thing and what it's not, you're committing exterminatus to every single thing on a planet. Or worse, if you want to take the angle of a creature from Rick and Morty, Mr. Frundles. Mr. Frundles is effectively a good example of both, one, a mimic, and two, a thing. Anything that it bites creates a face of Mr. Frundles, and it eventually takes over the entire fucking planet. Because Jerry brought it back from wherever the fuck that original Jerry was. And now that Jerry is responsible for the destruction of the planet. Because the entire planet is now Mr. Frundles. If that existed inside of a universe like of Warhammer, or Starship Troopers, or Helldivers, we would have a justified right to kill Mr. Frundles. Because Mr. Frundles, no matter how cute he is not a cute animal. He is a fucking monster. And he needs to die. Because we're in the war for the species. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now that I think about it, like, who would win a fight? Like, the Terminator or the Thing?
The Terminator.
Yeah. Robot supremacy.
Well, it matters for the reason as to why it would win. So, the thing is a creature of biomass. It wants to add to its biomass. It wants to consume. So, the more things that it attempts to consume, it's going to try and fight anything that it thinks it cannot be able to sneak up on to consume their biomass. The Terminator is metal. It cannot subsume non-organic biomass. So, by nature of existing, the biomass that belongs to the Terminator cannot be consumed. Maybe it could consume the fake synthetic skin that overlays every Terminator T-Series or X-Series, but versus the T-800, any model that's based on Arnold Schwarzenegger, it would not be able to defeat it. Maybe it could disable it if it wounded it enough to cripple the mechanisms of its design, but assumptively, that Terminator series would win. The liquid metal Terminator they decided to bring in from Terminator 2, or the synthetic hollow skin one that they had from that one featuring that girl from Blade Runner 2049 that says the line, "You don't like real girls, do you?" That type of Terminator might be able to win because they are made to be an elevation and an improvement on the model that the T-800 was meant to be. The liquid metal Terminator would definitely win just by nature of being able to learn from the kind of enemy that it's facing, and it would learn to adapt to fight the creature by knowing that it's not a human, and so simply it would just kill everything that looks like a human, and then incinerate it with fire through some means, because that's as easy as it is to deal with the thing. Just kill it with fire. You destroy the structure of the cells, you thus then depower its ability to shapeshift, morph, and hide. So it would eventually arrive at the same conclusion humans would, which is exterminatus. Except it wouldn't just pick to choose which one is human and which one is not. If the case example were Skynet were to lose because there would be an overrunning race of physical creatures that exist to kill organic life, and they need humans to be able to detect the thing, it would be a very rare case where humans would work together with the more dangerous type of Terminator, because Terminators know that they need humans in order to detect a thing, because they're really bad at detecting it, and they haven't developed some type of bullshit excuse to say why they need to have humans work together with each other, so that you can have the hook of a story where it's a tenuous form of a truce between humans and human-killing robots, because they have a bigger fish to fry. That wouldn't be a half bad story to start with, but you'd need to have a good writer for it, but I digress.
I bet that's a fan fiction somewhere on like the internet.
Possibly. You could probably find it on AO3, but
Hold on, let me find it.
I mean, go right ahead. But the greater goal is that you ask me what Grimdark is, and it's a type of writing that requires after the end philosophy. It has to be post-apocalyptic by nature, because society existing as it is does not create for the apocalyptic condition that allows you to describe the concept that would be entertaining to the person to consume and watch. Because you could go any amounts of directions with any of this content, and your imagination fills the theater of the mind to entertain you with whatever the fuck you think is an interesting thing to watch or consume.
The various horrible and evil things that you would come up with in your mind.
I mean, it's more of a case of boredom. Like, if you are really, really bored, you can come up with a bunch of shit to entertain yourself with the concept. Because all you need is the concept. Whatever else doesn't matter.
Was that my dog?
By what?
We have a dog now.
By, do I have a dog?
No, like, I have a dog now. Like, I just heard him bark.
Oh. Okay. I didn't hear a dog bark. Sorry.
Hmm.
But what I've said my opinions about Grimdark. What do you think about Grimdark?
It's a pretty fun. It's a pretty fun genre, at least, or like genres. Now that I discovered it, covered it, and like it could be very good for like storytelling.
I suppose. You can give me some examples of some Grimdark stories that you enjoy.
Well, I can't think of like grimdark stories that I basically like enjoy because like I haven't seen most of them. Like, but then again, like if like Lovecraft's work is grimdark, then like I would say Call of Cthulhu.
Okay. What about Call of Cthulhu makes you enjoy it?
It's basically like, oh no, I enjoy like the concept of like of being under the sea and like I don't know, and that if the stars are aligned properly, then like he will make a return and like make us all go mad and go insane.
Okay. So you like the concept of an unknowable cosmic horror that can bring devastation unto us all just by mere existence.
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think that's kind of a really scary thing.
Okay. What about it do you enjoy? What about the concept of Cthulhu's character or the setting of the story entices you? Just the, oh shit, I can go crazy if I look at this thing. Ah! Or is there something deeper?
Hmm. I sort of like the concept of like that brings out like an evil god at least.
You like the idea of an evil god?
Yes.
Alright. What other stories do you enjoy?
Does Revelations from like the Bible count?
Revelations, why is that?
I feel like it's a good prophecy, honestly, to like make stories out of, like trying to prevent the Antichrist's birth or like going through like the rapture, like the dark times at least, and the many versions of it that there is.
Okay.
Maybe the one with the accurate, maybe the accurate one with the trumpets.
Okay. So have you played a lot of Darksiders, for example?
What?
Darksiders. The video game series that uses the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse as main characters?
No, I just like I just like learned about this stuff online and like information on the internet. Just like because I like researching like these like old mythologies and religions that like billions or thousands of years old.
Okay. What aspect about Revelations pulls you to it? Does learning out about mythology or background in religion or
Background in religion, and also because like it's sort of grimdark in its own ways. Like a lot of bad shit happens into it. Like these weird like bug things like attack people, and like meteors rain down from the skies, and like all that jazz.
okay. Are you religious?
Yes.
What's your denomination?
I have no nomination.
You have no denomination. So you're not religious, you're just spiritual.
Yeah.
What did your parents have as their religion?
I guess the Baptists.
Okay. Why are you not a Baptist?
It's basically it's basically just like the way I view God is just like I view God as like something we can't not know, and like most religions can like get a bit right, but like not fully.
Okay. You believe God is ineffable. Why is that?
Well, I just believe that like most religions get it wrong when it comes to terms of God or these like powerful deities because like they feel like they live on a plane different from us. And I feel like most of it is like I feel like the more Lovecraftian stuff is much more accurate to like how it is. And for reasons for that, it's just like basically it doesn't give like humanity the same reference of like we are like God's chosen people. Inevitably, like
Okay. So, divine providence, not a factor in your worldview?
yes,
So what do you believe when it comes to people?
that we can choose whatever we can choose in life. As long as we don't like try and like hurt each other. For like petty or like evil reasons.
Okay. So what happens in that worldview of yours when you have to factor for people who choose to do evil despite the evidence or lack thereof of a living God? Doesn't matter what God or what type. What is your answer to evil people in the world? What makes them evil?
Background, how they're raised, and just personally how they like deal with like things in their own life.
And what would you give as the contention or the solution for these people?
Just raise people properly. Just like don't abuse the fact that you have a child, or like actually raise them properly.
And what about the people who had all those things and they still turned out rotten?
Maybe there needs to be this like a balance between like not pampering your own kid and like just like straight up just like not abusing them. It's just like basically like I can't give like a consensus. This is from like how I grown up, but like an ideal way of growing up as a kid and like a teenager.
The reason why I ask is because for the concept of Grimdark, you usually don't start from the position of using God as a factor or a consequence. But in the case of Revelation, it is not because of an evil God that allows us to suffer, but rather the Lord attempting to rescue the faithful by bringing them through the rapture to the kingdom of heaven as they do promise for the covenant that they held with him in his life. And those left behind are those that have to contend with the fact that they are stuck in that place because they are, for whatever reason, not worthy to be in heaven until they repent. And that they would then be rescued from their state of existence in this form of purgatory, of living hell on earth, until they can then be allowed to be rescued from the end, etc., 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 or against the kingdom of God, etc., etc., the beast from the seas, etc., etc., the mother harlot, etc., etc. But I feel that the more important part to ask you is your philosophy for people in the world. Because sure, grapes of wrath, angry God, but there are clearly examples of people in this world that, without religion, or even with religion, are clearly contemptible people. And sure, you could say this gives you evidence that God must be evil because he would not allow people like this to exist. But what about the choice that is allowed for that person to exist and express themselves in such a manner that glorifies the grace of God, as they've been given the grace to have individual choice and purpose? For example, JDA, a contemptible person that could be able to tell to his Judeo-Christian friend that he will use him and then dispose of him because he does not believe fervently and hard enough to join the war of total war against people who are not religiously zealot like he is. I don't see anything that would tell me that JDA came from a hard background that would say, fuck people in the world, they don't deserve to have life, misery, contention, or anything else. And, like, what makes him tick? What makes a man want to have gay porn featuring furry Pokemon and then not pick the struggle between gay furry Pokemon and I want to rid the world of porn because it's sinful and evil, and also 1488, my brothers? What makes him tick?
I have no idea. I really don't have no idea.
It's not my philosophy, it's your world philosophy. You say you don't believe in God, you say God evil. So God was just in the country like, yeah, I'm gonna make this nigga fucking diabolical. He wants to...
It's not that I don't believe in God, it's just like I don't believe that many religions have gotten them right yet.
Can you say that again, please?
I believe in God, I just don't believe most religions, like, most religions have gotten them right yet.
Most religions have not gotten God right yet. Okay. Who's gotten God right?
No one yet.
No one yet. So what would make God right?
There's a being of pure, like, there's a being that created the universe, and he's like pure light, or like pure creation, that like what we're made out of.
Okay, being a pure light, master of the universe, creator that is of the energy that is one with all.
Or in shorter sense, I feel like God is the universe that we live in.
Okay, God is the universe.
He's every living being, every like organism. We are living in his body. We are like cells, or you know, those bugs that live on our faces.
Tardigrades.
What?
Tardigrades. The bugs that live on our faces are mites and tardigrades. They are a form of individual pseudoplankton.
Wait, they're plankton?
They are single-celled organisms that do not necessarily have brains in the way that we do, because they are singular-celled organisms, whereas we are multi-celled. Okay, you believe that God is the universe that we live in. So, what is your contention then with the way that you go through life? What's your moral guidance?
I go about it like treating people kindly, as you would like to be treated, and like don't be a dick. Just basically don't be a dick.
Okay, golden rule, simple. How do you contend for those that would go wrong by you and would pervert that natural order?
I would have to fight them.
Why?
Because they're perverting the natural order, and that's just wrong.
But what if the natural order is chaos?
Well then, yes, I'd rather join them.
Just like that? You can't beat them and join them?
Like, join them and bring order at least.
But you cannot bring order upon the chaos, especially if you are choosing to do so without a guideline other than do good things, if those that are stronger than you would subvert through your will of might versus right. And if God is the body of the world, then God is nature. I don't know about you, but the last time I saw a puma eating the ass of a deer, it didn't seem very nice and natural for it to do, other than if I understand that benevolence is good for humans, but it's not a matter of benevolence, it's a matter of survival. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So if God is nature, who are you to say that they cannot act like the animals that we are? What elevates us?
What's simple?
We're
We're
simple.
evolved. We're evolved beyond like simple animals. We like think, we feel, we imagine. There's something about us that like makes us different from like most of nature.
Not really. Chimpanzees also speak. They also have the ability to do it. In fact, bonobos are probably more intelligent than us. No matter the shape it up, we are capable of doing what we're doing because we have achieved something that an animal can't quite do, and I'm not sure if you could put your finger on it.
Yeah, I really can't.
Do you know what the definition of abracadabra is?
Nope.
As I speak, so I shall create. Those are the magic words that translate from abracadabra. We think, therefore we are. We know that we are humans, and we know that we are animals, but we know that we are something more than a mindless creature. We created laws, order, and civility to elevate ourselves from creatures because the natural order of chaos is that we let the strong do as they will. Now, I don't even have to go to religion, but do as thou wilt is the commandment that was given unto the Lord. So, if God is nature, as you said with your words, by your definition, you can't tell a person who has a gun what to do. Because, sure, I could be nice to people and I could do things because it feels good, or I could take your stuff. Your stuff feels good. And if everybody believes that there is no order, there is no will, there is no greater purpose that stops me from destroying society because I want what I want, and you can't tell me that I can't. There is no God anyways. After all, God is the body, and I think I want to eat your body. I'm hungry. What keeps all of us in order? Civil law. Technically, what keeps us in the right is the threat of violence to each other. If you attack me and try to eat me, I have the right to defend myself. Yes or no?
Yes.
So, how do you pose order on those that will destroy the natural order? And who will do chaos unto others because they perceive themselves to have the right to? Because they also are human creatures living in the same world you and I are living in.
The same threat of violence?
Yeah, but if we're always doing threat of violence, that's not really useful, now is it? So what do we have in place?
Award.
So what do we have in place instead of constant violence on behalf of those that would not do violence for others? The social construct, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people's social construct is an adaptation that comes from a organization of their philosophical beliefs, whether it is a religious belief or it is a intellectual belief. Yours is based in morality. But if I can convince you to do so, I can make you abandon your morality. Like that. So, if God is nature, and you want people to do good, what compels them to do that good?
Good point.
I'll phrase the question a different way. Do you like having stuff?
Yes.
What compels you to get more stuff?
I don't know.
You don't know what makes you get more stuff?
Mm-mm.
You like having stuff, don't you?
Yes.
So how would you feel if you had more stuff?
All right.
You feel alright about it? Feel good?
Mm-hmm.
I like having stuff. I like more stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta have some place to put it, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think you would do if you wanted to have more stuff and you didn't have enough room to put it?
I just basically sell the stuff.
Okay. That's definitely a choice. But what if you didn't want to sell your stuff? What would you need to have? Land, right?
Mm-hmm.
I need land. I need stuff. I need room to put it in. So, to make more room for stuff, you've got an empty playing field in front of you. You're just going to lay it in the field so you can get rained on by the weather? Because remember, God is nature. And if God's nature is to make you sick when you get caught in the rain, you want to protect yourself from God's wrath, right?
Yeah.
So you build a house. You build some type of structure to protect you from the elements. And then if people came to your structure and tried to take your stuff, what would you do to them?
Fight them.
And what if they came to your structure and said, listen, I don't want to take your stuff, but I would like to live in your house. Well, you don't want them living in your house. It's your house. You built it with your sweating hands, right?
I guess I would make a deal with them, like... I guess I can make a deal with them that, like, they could stay for the night, I guess.
Oh, cooperation. Interesting. That's not natural, though. The natural state of order is fuck, eat, kill, die. So you're now exacting your form of order on the world by imposing your will on it and changing it to your needs, right?
Yeah.
And if you do that enough times, what do you end up having?
A society.
And then in that society, if people from outside the society came into your society and decided, you have good stuff, give us your stuff or we kill you this rock, that's when you tell them, click, clack, you better get back, right?
Yeah.
So what stops the people in that society from saying that to everybody else collectively? The social contract. But what opposes the morality that is brought with the social contract? Traditions.
Mm-hmm.
Things that we know work, so we upkeep them. Do that towards something that you could praise as an object, that's religion. From the same religious background that you got your morals for being good, came the practicality that allows you to allow yourself the space in which to build out of nature into civilization from the mud. So, if God is nature, you're doing something unnatural that goes against the tenement as a human creature. Because you're still an animal. But we have elevated ourselves from being different than a normal creature. Because we think. And we feel. And we can also rationalize pattern recognition. If I get in a fight with you, I don't have a guarantee that I protect my stuff. So it's easier to collaborate than it is to conquer. If I'm stronger than you, then I can take your stuff. But what happens if I get outnumbered? What stops you from taking my stuff if I'm outnumbered by those people who know that I have the best stuff in all of the village?
It doesn't.
No, there's something that stops them. We already
Law.
said it. Yes, law. And what is law derived from?
Order?
I mean, arithmetically speaking, yes, but it's devised from something. It's devised from observations, right?
Mm-hmm.
I observe that if I try to steal your stuff, nothing's stopping somebody from stealing it back. So instead of stealing it, we declare people who steal from each other get clobbered with rocks. Or if you want to be more specific, if you steal from somebody, I cut your hands off.
With rocks?
With rocks. Sharp rocks. And then those people who like to steal people's stuff come around. You welcome them into your society. And then randomly they decide, it was a trick! Give me your stuff! And you come out wielding a spear with a giant thing on your head that denotes that you're the village chief, and you say, that's a shame. And when they're laughing, saying, what are you going to do with that stick? And everybody else ambushes them from behind, you tell them, around here we created a thing called a law. You tried to take our stuff. I'm going to need you to come off from hands, bruh. What gives you the ability to enforce that law on those people?
Observations?
The social contract.
The contract.
Who elected you to be king of these people? Or in this case, the village elder? Other than age. An agreement. You came up with solutions. You were wise. You took initiative. So you created a social order that allows people to work with each other and not kill each other over things like food and water and shelter and personal affectations. And you're willing to stand up and defend them. You created a system that allows people to live. And in that system, you protect those that cannot protect themselves. And you lead people so that they may be able to have that for themselves. Which means that you're using your morality to justify your rule. That's might makes right, baby. That's the law of nature. Kill or be killed. But you have subverted the law of nature, and you are instead being civilians in a society based on the social contract that as long as we don't kill each other, we will act like intelligent men and women with class and decorum. And only so rarely will we become savage to those that are savage to us. If you don't have a system of morals based from societal tradition, passed down to you by other people, or inherently given to you from a philosophy of something akin to a religious dogma, even if it's just from a cult, some type of moral that you find self-evident of yourself, you don't have the right to call yourself a man, let alone call yourself a human being. Because what do we define as human?
The laws that we make, the order that we have, the society that makes us human.
Correct. Because we're not animals. Because whenever we meet a woman, we don't immediately say, "Woman! Unga bunga!" and hit her over the head with a rock, right?
Yeah.
I mean, some don't. I don't know about you. I do every time I'm walking in the room. But the point I'm trying to get here is, you're ceding a lot of ground in your philosophy that allows people to be able to manipulate you with information. But it's not at fault for how you think. but you have to have a stronger, more rigid musculature to your philosophy because people can use it against you. Because if there is no God, then it means that your system is not based on a religious viewpoint, but is based on instead a moral system. And if I can pose to you a moral system that is more convenient and more evident than take care of your fellow man, I can get you to abandon your philosophy. Very easily. Do you agree or disagree?
Yeah, I agree.
So even though you might not be religious, you still have to be spiritual, right? Because you have to believe in something. So if your belief is that God is nature, might it be possible that God is not just the world around you that you live in, but is also the way you treat other people? As well as yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Your body's a temple, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you worship God? By doing your best every day, right?
Yeah.
So, if instead of God is nature and people are doing him wrong because they're not really addressing it, wouldn't it be easier to say that God is the actions we choose to take every day?
Yes.
And our form of religion calls us to counsel, not based on the particular book that we choose to believe in, but the way that we carry ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
A lot easier so that somebody doesn't say, hey, God told me to tell you that you should give me your stuff, right? Because what if you need that stuff in order to help other people?
Or your family members, or like your pets.
Or your community, or your parish, your personal loved ones. Parish, the members of the congregation.
Or your job.
Anything that is that is irregular and singular down to yourself, at whatever level.
Yeah. Thank you for realizing that part of my philosophy was kind of like easy to manipulate.
I mean, like, if there's one thing that is very clear, especially considering we've had you on several times, and I agree with Horror in this, you need more musculature in your philosophies. Ooh, +1 physical. Ooh, +1 physical. You need more musculature in your philosophies. Because you are sure and unsure of many things at once. And while that is not a fault of yourself, it does make it seem that when you ask something or agree with something, that you are unsure of your own philosophy. It's not my philosophy, it's your philosophy. So, I found it interesting that you are fascinated with the macabre and the Elucidian of things that would be beyond the Euclidean measure of humanity, like being mystified with Cthulhu and Lovecraftian stories. But your philosophy on God, and or therein your morality towards other people, is wishy-washy at best. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So while it's not a fault or a problem that you have, it is a thing that I notice that directly influences your philosophy therein. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you have such a philosophy of God, it then makes you less receptive towards being able to communicate that action. Because that is actually what allows people to grift off of you. Most cults, or most worldviews about concepts, are bound off the fact that they recognize that certain people are in want of something. And if they supply that, you are malleable to them. Now, I don't have shit to fucking sell you on religion, bro. I'm very spiritual myself, but I don't let go of my upbringing because it is why I'm able to navigate through the world as I do. I speak and act the way I do, not because I am always being performative and looking for an audience to react to my antics, but because I understand that I am responsible for the things that I bring about in my life. Always have been. But I've constantly allowed other people to make the decisions for me because I can't be bothered. And that can lead to the consequences of other people being able to control me through those interactions and actions. And I have no one to blame but myself because I could have taken control of my life, but I put it in someone else's hands. And if I were to do that all the time, or enough that it leads to the output that creates my involvement, I can't blame other people for that reaction because it's my own fault. I am responsible for the interactions that I have in my life. I am responsible for my philosophy and how I carry myself. No one can do the hard work for me. I have to do it myself because at the very minimum, I have to keep myself breathing so that I can be of service to others. If you wanted to go the religious route, I need to be of service to others, so I cannot allow myself to be giving away shit that would be better in the hands of people who deserve it, just because some other person says, it'd be really nice if you were to give this to me. They have to be deserving, at least to my specifications, to my requirements, so that I don't just simply allow myself to be walked all over by people who otherwise would have bad outcomes and bad outlooks for those, and mine I call my brothers and sisters. Or potentially, in this case, my audience members. Or if you're more religious and were a member of the parish, your congregation. Because if you're always bending over backwards based on the definition of people give you, this is where the good old trusty leftist comes along and says, I don't believe in your nasty composite god, but maybe if I incant these words back to you, you'll do what I want. You know what I'm saying? So, you have to have some more musculature and more rigor to the things that you believe in, if just so that unto yourself they make sense. So that in the future, when you think about what you believe in, you conduct yourself by that requirement you make of yourself, not because God told you to, but because it's good, decent, and proper, and it leads to better outcomes for yourself, as well as other people. Because you carry yourself with a level of integrity that you then receive back 100-fold.
Okay. I gotta go.
It's okay. The only one thing I leave you with is that you have to remember, the ending of learning is the beginning of death. Never stop questioning yourself.
Metal as fuck.
Okay.
Anyways, see ya.
I release you. Goodbye. With 5 minutes? Oh, 6 minutes to spare. That could have gone a really weird place. Okay. This is definitely a scroll back. Cthulhu and the Eldritch gods are cool because they are the epitome of the unknown. They are what the human mind cannot understand. One thing I want to say about Lemon Duck's big struggle, he wants to do so with many things, but I don't even dream. If I were home, I'd be arguing with Carl right now over the point of freedom of choice. That would be definitely one that I'd argue with somebody if I heard someone say it. The point that I was trying to get across to Lemon Duck is like having some form of philosophy that he believes in, that is the basis of his philosophy, is important. Because if he just doesn't believe in anything, and he just asks questions because, you know, I want to hear from the special magic man what he thinks about the situation, it feels more like the blind leading the blind. Because what I think and believe might not be necessarily good for him to go off of. And also, if one does not have a philosophy that they can be able to work with for themselves, then What good is a sword if you don't know how to use it? Good men are monsters that have it in control. We selectively choose when we stop being men and start becoming savages to defend people. I'm going to be back with what Boss was saying here. We are getting deep. Pearson did mention how one needs to know how to use a sword. Exactly. To fight for a good cause, but also learn when to unsheath said sword. Basic. If you want to suppose good values and civility onto chaos, you have to be ready to face it with proper tools, the skills, abilities, tools, weapons, etc. I do appreciate you, Carl, leading him through the thought process while teaching him and us in the chat. People like Ghost would just yell at the poor guy, kick him out of the call, and call him bad names and slurs off the microphone. I sympathize with being unsure of yourself in many regards, also the same, but it's also uncertain that you have lack of knowledge that you actively seek to reinforce and find new perspectives, and then there's just going off on straight vibes. Look, there is a level of respect that I can have for it, because even though it can probably make for a bad show, I'm not about to let a person like that be stranded and lost and just be like, bro, what the fuck are you talking about? Because that's not what a good host does. What a good host does is what I just did, and hopefully will continue to do in the future. Might not work the same way for every person who would be responsive to it, but it's very clear he is up the creek without a paddle. And the best thing I can do is give some direction. Perhaps he doesn't know the words. So, to learn from a lesson that horror told me before, I used to be really bad at communicating this information. Because things, to me, might not be as obvious to me as it is to you, and vice versa. So, I shouldn't ask a person an open form question where I believe there should be an easy, reasonable answer and say something like I did in the past, regrettably, which is, damn, you guys are really bad at this, because it'll make a person feel like they're stupid. Instead, I should give him open form questions and use his answers as a form of talk therapy to allow him to work out what his philosophies are. Because maybe he's never actually questioned his own philosophies. He just knows that he doesn't necessarily like religion for one question or another. And for that, we definitely ain't got enough time for that. But in the course of an hour and how many was in the clock before I reset it to an hour and 15 minutes? Technically like an hour and 25 minutes? We discern the mind of a questioner in search of answers that they don't know how to ask the question for. So instead, I pose to them ideas and allow them to come to their own conclusions. But I also give them guidance with my philosophy and rectify the holes that are left in the work. Because I would say, based on the original question you asked me, there's actually a lot that you can do with Star Wars, because the biggest problem with Star Wars is the plot holes. Like, God, the amount of plot holes that exist inside of just the sequels trilogy, let alone some that exist inside the prequels. So many fucking plot holes. And on that level, yeah, there are definitely some certain figures who are responsible for ruining Star Wars in trying to tell people that they cannot ask about the plot holes that exist in the material effort of the work. Because it is a problem that people are somehow unaware of how an important character or figure like Palpatine returns into the foray of a medium. How does he just sneak up on you? How do you not suspect this to be the case? How do you allow all the plot holes that exist inside of the prequels exist to allow a Sith member to get close to who is supposed to be your new chosen revealed savior? But I found the conversation deeper to himself, more interesting than Star Wars, because he had more stake in that than he did the topic about the fictional material. And at the end of the day, what's important here is good conversations, or interesting conversations, or wild conversations. This is definitely a first for Yap-In, I can tell you that much goddamn right now. Hoo-wee. But my goal was to, not leave him up shit's creek without a paddle. I will be right back. I need to throw these bottles away. I return to the ether. First. Going more hermetic and saying I need to figure myself out before I can figure out God. That's another way. Yeah, that is also a good way to go. Thank you for the money, for the effort. Shouldn't be the beginning of the inner work, and the ending of inner work is the beginning of the inner death. Lol, I'm pretentious. I mean, ironically enough, I got that quote from Path of Exile alone. A lot of my learning I've learned from the world building of this video game and the shit inside of it. And ironically enough, it has worked out for the most part somewhat successfully. Just by imminent nature of the material. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. It's chaos damage over time. I hope the advice helps them at least. Burning enemies have a chance to explode. If fresh, ignite and grow hence do not inherently ignite damage. Increase damage with hits against ignite enemies. And with overcrowding being from critical strikes. Let's do this. Ouch. Certainly, whoever has to follow that's going to be even better, right? Also, hi, Buster.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Hey, hi, okay, let's hit the road. Give me a time. Sorry, it's just I was not really prepared. Okay. Yeah, that was. I was not expecting the religious, not really the debate, but the religious talk before. But hey, you got to learn something, so that was really cool. As for the question, since you are relatively fresh from the session with Helldivers 2, I was wondering if you could, I don't know, give me some sort of overall thoughts. How after what was it, like 6 months, more or less, after the 6 months of you coming back. What are your overall thoughts on the progression of the game? Where is it going, or something like this?
Yeah, I can do that, definitely. Considering the fact that because I refuse to spend money on the game, mainly because I want to see exactly how viable it is for a person to go out without having to buy any of the packs for all the content that's in there, and getting it over time with the amount granted to me, unless I finally cave and get the $20 goddamn extension and become a super citizen so I can play fucking Guitar Hero inside my destroyer. The nature in which they are going with the storyline is fine. The nature in which they are going with the game design is good and fine. Where they have gone with monetization, I'm not happy with. It feels like ass that I cannot convert any of this currency that I'm getting into super credits. And it sucks when there are people trying to end missions early. On one part, it's, why the fuck are you trying to end the mission early when we just got here? So that we can try to learn what the fuck we're doing. But also, why are we moving in such a pace where we are incapable of dealing with the consequences in front of us because we're still falling into some very temporary revive, die, revive loops. Because people are pulling people into danger rather than away from danger to reset the circumstances. And why does it feel like the game is more rewarding to a meticulous type of playstyle, but it propensively details people to try and be like in an action-moving setting, where they go in guns blazing all the time, and it feels that we have not created something that stems the divide of that gameplay style. Certainly part of that is on the development of how they've developed these enemies and these variants that they tried out and then perfected before bringing into the game proper, in events that I have long since missed. And, you know, that's cool that there's an actual world that, rather than creating a mission type where it makes me simulate being there when they first developed it, is instead a living story that has since progressed. So it's like coming back in the middle of a D&D session as a guest character. Or you're joining a D&D session in medias res, and you get to experience the world that other players left you to deal with because their decisions now affect the way that you choose to play the game. At least on those aspects that are most affected of that work. For the most part, it's more or less pretty cool, but it also feels like sometimes it could, depending on the enemy. I want to make that very clear as a caveat. Depending on the enemy, very fucking difficult. And I bricked powering. Very difficult to give it the proper space and time to understand and experience that goal as a part of the work that we are at the mercy of. Sometimes, when I have been playing randomly, without needing to be live, it has been good that people have come in the middle of the session from the community, because I would be lost heads or tails on how to deal with some of these threats. Back when the game first launched, it was probably possible for a player on a medium difficulty, which I guess now starts at 6 and 7, to be able to solo the majority of the content of the game, just based on what was there. Before they properly added Striders and the warship factories, and definitely before the inclusion of the Illuminate, it was possible for a person to solo. It didn't mean that they'd get through perfectly with no flawless, no deaths, but to solo that content, and then at some point come up with an answer for a solo person to open a friendship bunker, for them to get bored of the material there. But with the amount of content that they added to the game since, there's no world where a person gets through that content without actually learning how to work in a unit. And it still feels like there are some units that are just trying to play their lives. And especially that one guy who got upset at that one player that we ended up befriending in that session involving myself and Struggler and Marcus. The same way that you and I grew our friendship and then led to you becoming a member of the community was me following the same principle and philosophy with my gameplay as I do in life. Because I carry myself the same way I do in games as I do personally. And there are definitely some players that still carry on the spirit of Helldivers in trying to foster the community interaction. But in that moment with that guy, it was very much a clear example of the stuff that we usually deal with as part of the live stream of content, butting its ugly head into the world of Helldivers. He was very clearly upset. He was clearly angry. I don't know why he was upset. While he wanted to talk through his problems, he cared more about his emotions than he did about the gameplay and how it was affecting the squad. There is a clear detriment where the people that are getting upset like that are definitely part of what brought the game down. And whenever they felt that way, they just decided, nah, I'm a dip because I'm not getting out of it what I want. And I guess what he wants is for somebody to be upset with him, but I'm not gonna be. And to that area, it's very silly, because that sounds like some shit someone would say unironically to me. Like, bro, you're taking it too seriously, you're cosplaying too fucking much. Like why are you being so serious? And it's like, no, bro. That's wild that you're upset like that right now. They ain't trying to hurt you. You have to be vulnerable so that you can be able to have fun. And it feels like there are some players that they're just pounding out the game because they're sticklers and don't want to give up on it, but at the same time are unwilling to, like, remember that they're supposed to be having fun with this game time.
Yeah. It is interesting to see. Sorry, I hope I'm not cutting you off.
No.
No, I was just actually hearing that thought because like a week ago, I was discussing it with fellas, saying that whenever I play random in this game, right, I just go by the notions. Of course, I'm not because there was a lack of communications, right? Because I believe at some time ago during the streams, you said that some players, when playing even co-op games, are not even giving the basics of communication or in the chat or in the voice chat. I was thinking to myself, when I'm playing this game, the Helldivers 2, with the randoms, 99% of the sessions that I played was without any chat room interaction or voice lines. It was just, everybody was doing its own thing. Everything was kind of running smoothly. I was like, why is that? Why is it that Carl sometimes is facing some just straight up assholes who, I don't know, whenever you even mildly suggest something, they immediately like, oh bro, you try to control me? Why are you sleeping on my phone, bro? And I thought to myself, the only thing that in real life would be comparison would be like driving a car in the public spaces. Everybody is focusing on their driving, everybody is following like a specific set of the rules on the street, and everybody's just simply doing their thing. And because everybody is doing their thing, the match kind of goes. And if somebody from, like, again, maybe not the best example, but if somebody like behind you, when you were driving a car, suddenly start honking, or I don't know, he lowered the window and started to talk to you, the flow kind of disrupts because suddenly there is this interaction rather than wait, just do your own thing, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this example is good.
No, it is. This is actually what that guy mentioned when we were talking. When he's like, when I heard somebody talking for the first time, I was completely shocked, and I just followed along with his calls. The other guy was mystified, but simply adapted to the fact that, okay, there is a leader. And the other guy was upset that someone dared to comment on the fact that, no, you can't speak to him like that. To the point that there were people in the chat rooms saying as such, at least on Twitter of all places. Usually I don't look at the Twitter chat, but I was actually looking there because I was having microphone trouble, which apparently is very strangely and only specifically centered entirely in how Helldivers decides to use voice functions, which is very strange. But he said himself, I was shell-shocked by the fact that there were people actually talking. Because more or less, everybody's had to learn how to play the game in their own individual time. And their experience with the game has influenced their knowledge. Because there's stuff that they know to do based on what is there, versus stuff that they wouldn't have done because they wouldn't have expected other people to play in such a way for them to even have the space to then achieve that gameplay to begin with. So, everybody else there that wasn't that guy, they were just simply vibing in the moment, playing as natural, and then once it was Marcus and Struggler that were in the off swats, that one other person with me in a squad of 4 meant that there was no problems, no cantankerous issues, and leadership to be handed off. One person could have an idea, and whoever was the most knowledgeable in that situation to deal with the problem was the one that led the scenario. Since I have experience with the robots and I have experience with the bugs, and it's my live stream that I'm on, I will work with the people and use information, but I have a general idea of how I want things to go because I need super credits. So, we clear the first 20 parts of the mission in the first 20 minutes, and then we spend the back half of the mission in the last 20 minutes taking out all the POIs on the planet. Because certainly, for the people who have been there forever, they probably have close to or are also maxed again, like I was, when we got to all the point of the content before Omens of Liberty and Escalation of Freedom truly locked in the gameplay format they were going for. And for everything else, if I had no experience, like with the Illuminates, I go off the advice of those who have already played. Because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing in that situation. I probably don't have the materials or the tools. And then, once I discover what is good, or I discover and learn how to face the object that we have to get over, which is the enemy type, how do I best counter them? How do I target them? How do I affect them? What works, what doesn't? Once I know that knowledge, it doesn't just go back to, alright, I know everything, so you should listen to me. It becomes, I know what I'm good at. I'm good at covering people's tails. As I always have to think about the what if. Because I've been fucked too many times by somebody who just simply says, nah, it's fine. And then it turns out to not be fine. So I bring up the rear. I keep the team covered. and I spot the targets and the problems before they happen. Then I come up with a plan with them. And if somebody chooses to have a plan that works in tandem, I can then fill in the holes where need be. And then we start taking turns with leadership. Most people are not capable of doing that because they're not used to leadership. They usually prefer somebody else do it, or they're just, flying by the seat of the pants, going off of what if, completely going off vibes. And in many cases, that tends to be the case with most multiplayer games. But unlike something like the finals, where people don't communicate on comms because usually people are obnoxious and annoying on comms, but really the answer is that they have no guarantee that their accounts don't get banned, or they don't want to interact with other people because they are annoyed by those other people as well. In this scenario, in that situation, at that time, and anytime else that happens to me moving forward, we just accept that there are things that some people are good at and some things that they are not good at. And whatever they are not good at, we will fill in the blanks, and we will go off whatever that is that they want to use and want to work with, and we will do our best to do good by them, and we won't take shit hard. We will just accept that we're at the limitations of what we can do, and then we go next, and we plan better so that those things don't happen again in the future. That would be some of the best effort that works for Helldivers, since it is by experimentation an extraction shooter that gives you a lot of offer and a lot of potential. And the majority of our job is to use that potential rather than letting it fall by the wayside. If I choose to go into a mission using a grenade launcher all the time because I don't like the new Predator variant strain that fucking much, and I make sure that I'm the heavy that deals with the heavy targets, and then everywhere else I'm spreading and raining death on them as an engineer operator, then that's the archetype that I choose to play. Whatever best works to fill the team, I make use of it. That's what I do. That becomes my job, and I take accountability for it. I own that category, and I do not let anything come between me and my squad. If it's big and it can get locked on by a spear, it's dying. If it can be shot with an object in the distance as we're running, then it dies. Very simple stuff. Very basic stuff. Shouldn't be more difficult than that for any particular person that could play a video game that way. And if we end up facing Illuminates, because we decided we wanted to face Illuminates, or I need to have experience with them, which I still need to have more experience, then we work that shit out and we deal with that problem when we get there. Ain't gotta be, it ain't gotta have no anger, no anxiety, no self-referential or self-derogatory put-downs. It just is what it is, and we work off what we got, and whoever is the leader of the situation is whoever has the best answer to deal with the problem. Because it is easier for us to just decide, alright, I will defer to your knowledge because you're more knowledgeable, than for me to pretend that I know what the fuck I'm doing in that situation. Because if I don't know what I'm doing, I don't have the right to be upset or yell at or be mad at them. Period. And in that way, it makes things in Helldivers simpler. As far as the mechanics of the game, the philosophy of the game, the game's design and its direction, I can't really know because I don't have the money to get all of those items. If I could balance and test all of those items, or slowly make for a max purchase for super credits, the currency possible for me to experience the content that I'm missing out on, with the weapons that I can't use, the stratagems that I can't use, it makes it hard to know. Because I can't be sure that I will be able to give that opinion until we get that content. But until then, I'm just there with my dick in my hand, just working and rocking with like the base outload and like maybe 2 war bonds worth of stuff. So what the fuck do I know? Especially having taken a break from the game, where I was not one of the ones that stayed there for the longest time. Whatever the fuck happens, happens. And I will not know enough or more until I play more But because content demands that I need to play things, I won't know until I really sit down to play again. So, I'm at the mercy of my lack of knowledge. And if I can get that knowledge that improves my gameplay experience so that I can be able to do something with that knowledge, then so be it. But right now, the game is pure vibes. It's for pure effort. It should be for pure fun. That's all it should have to be. Community building through it would be cool and good. But because of good old Sony, they can't ensure and trust that every person who's playing the game will be able to join in. Because some of them have day jobs, some of them different time of day, like it is for you. Some of them different types of audiences that they play it with. Maybe they only play with a certain group of friends, and because they play with their friends, they'll never be able to join in with us in whatever content we do, and that's fine too. But it's like, I have to meet people halfway in order for me to truly get a full appreciation out of this video game. Otherwise, I skip it to go play something else. And at that point, what was the point of even getting involved in Helldivers back then if I wasn't going to try and put in the effort to be involved with it on any serious basis with the community or even by myself now? Like, I have to make sure that I'm not the weak link that's putting my team down. Because if I'm the weak link and I don't care that much about the video game, why even waste my time playing the game? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
It's a lot of mentality put into it, but that's all I can really say at this point in time until I spend a lot more time trying to learn how I feel about the game as a whole. Because it's fun is at a point where a lot of that fun is based in how I choose to go about playing it more than how other people play it. But I feel like if I give it some more time, I get some more experience with the Illuminates, perhaps I can have more fun playing the Illuminate missions and playing maybe even bot missions, because it feels like some of the time the anime type of the bugs have gotten to the point where most people were playing the bugs because they found the bugs more fun and they were annoyed by the bots. I find the Illuminates and the bots probably more fun, until of course I get to that point where I'm missing some particular tool that if I had it would make the bots even better. But, like, the bugs have become such a cantankerous annoyance that it's better to face the Illuminates if all I wanted to do is just simply chill and farm. But if I want to just get into all of the action and all of the experience, I have to rely a lot more on my team and a lot more on the compatriots that I'm playing with. And in that way, Helldivers is a refreshing view of how good my skills of leadership are, but also how good I can convince people to go along with my plan. And pure vibes is kind of the operant there. Because if I go in too aggressive, people will not want to play with it or play with me because I'm being too aggressive. But at the same time, I have to give a shit, because when things get hard, as I kept calling them cowards when they did so, if things get hard and those players quit and they outright rage quit every single fucking time something doesn't happen as they plan. Not like when I was kicking people for trying to basically go against the desires that I planned out and the communication I gave towards what we were trying to do. But specifically, they are trying to ruin the game by how they are choosing to behave. It is on me to be the one that pulls that thread and says, no more, I've tried to make you understand. You do not give a shit, so you can't be here. And then at the same time, on that same level of communication, when I am trying to have whatever fun I'm having with whomever I'm having it with, I am able to relinquish control and take my hands off the steering wheel, because I don't have to be in control all the time. They got it. And the balance between the two can sometimes be rough, as it can be with anything that is my creative effort. Because the multiplayer experience isn't the live stream. The live stream is myself and the chat all reacting to the situation. And how I carry myself can directly lead into how other people carry themselves. So I have to remain civil so that we can reach a civil outcome. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Most people they're not as in their heads as I could be. So it's as simple as to them as like, bro, we're playing a video game, just go off of whoever has the best leadership. But, you know, trust is a part of the game. You have to be able to follow the rules of civility in order to have fun. Because if you're just the guy that's getting bullied by your friends in fucking Repo, you're not going to have fun in Repo, just like if you were with that same group of friends bullying you in Helldivers, that you would not have fun with those people in Helldivers. At that point, it becomes the hate that you know, rather than the hate that you give. So then you have to be able to tell your friends, hey guys, can you stop fucking with me and just like help me learn the game so that I can be able to carry my own? So that when you're in a group of other people, you don't carry on that that stigma that they have now traumatized you with onto other people. And you can be able to be a full functioning member of the game and the player base in which conducts itself in it. And that's cool. And it's cool that Arrowhead has learned from the consequences of dealing with grifters. They've clearly now brushed off Grums, so they will not be influenced by any dumb shit he says.
Thank God.
Johans has a good head on his shoulders for creative and has been cooking ever since. Perhaps at some point in the future, when they are able to somehow convince them to stop fucking up their potential growth and reach, Helldivers will be able to return somewhere to the peak it had before and higher, God willing.
Oh yeah.
And then sometime in the future, they'll finally listen to suggestions about putting in some kind of a conversion rate for super credits. Because I want to kill myself! All in all, that's all I can really say about Helldivers. It's definitely still a 9 out of 10 game that's just being kneecapped by a greedy corporation that doesn't know when to take no for an answer.
Oh yeah. Permanently debuffed when it comes to numbers, unfortunately. I'm just glad it still exists. I'm just glad that Sony did not decide to, hey, guess what, guys? It's 1 year anniversary since we decided to implement the PSN accounts on you. Guess what? We're gonna do it the second time. Aren't you excited? I'm glad they didn't do that. But then again, it's always a possibility because it's a Sony. So I'm just taking this game as much as I can because the good times never last forever, so.
True. We all paid for the ability to have the experience. We didn't pay for the game to permanently be around.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the few consequences. Because there is a global server that's supposed to be arriving on the Steam soon for what is originally known as Drift City, but it's being called Skid Row Drift City International. Whenever they bring titles like this out, we try to have fun with them, so that we can be able to talk about the experiences, because half the content is experience that thing at its peak and trying to keep the hope alive when it's fallen on hard times. But there's always new shit around the corner, and it's hard to find staples that you always keep around. So for me, I always have the staple of Path of Exile because I will always play RPGs. But for some people, they probably wouldn't take that up as a staple because maybe the game's too hard for them. Perhaps it is more complex. And even if we were to do Path of Exile University content, like I plan to for this month, they might say, well, I would like to play something simpler, like Repo. And then what happens when Repo goes the way of the dodo? Because everybody stops caring about it. Because it stopped being all the rage, and they've moved on to a new stringer game. Finding games like Helldivers to go back to that can be played solo or with groups is like having games like Spiral Knights to go back to. Spiral Knights was a very big one. It's on Steam, made by Sega. It's pretty much like baby's first MMORPG for kids, or it can be enjoyed by kids, but it's a very simplistic game. Not a lot of material goes into it. Very similar to Torchlight Infinite, actually, but it does not have the kind of problems that Torchlight Infinite obviously has by nature of being a mobile game form of an ARPG. Finding staples that you can keep in your rotation that you'll always go back to, not necessarily as a forever game, but as something that is just in your top selected played. So if I go to my library and I look at my recent games played, not accounting for Clair Obscure or Path of Exile currently. I picked up Balatro, and I've played how many hours of it at this point? 13.32 hours of playtime. That game has long since been a stand-in on my content to the point that it feels like it's not a single-player Carl stream. If when Carl's talking about a topic, he's not playing Balatro behind the video that he's ranting about. Next to that is Nubby's Number Factory, but that game is basically like $3. Anybody can be able to play that and have fun with it. Behind that, Path of Exile 2. Played almost nearly 600 hours of that. And it will only grow over time. I've been playing RuneScape Dragon Wilds off and on. Behind the camera and with conversations with other people. Because there's supposed to be some updates coming to that game. And Sandbox Survival is a game type that I always go back to. Which is why one of the more recent ones is Don't Starve Together, and why I chose that as the game that I gave away as a reward, or as the reward to give away for the community group gaming giveaway. Because if there's going to be something I'm going to give people time to get involved in, I'm going to choose something that is not going to have the same kind of expectation as something like League of Legends. Why would I want my audience to be tortured with toxic players when they can instead learn things like how to play DST in a server with each other, let alone the tactics and skills and the blah 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 that goes alongside that. Once Human is a title that I haven't played in a while only because there's been all these other games that I've wanted to play, and that game is very much one that is designed to be picked up and put down whenever you feel like going into it. You don't have to keep up with the Joneses on Once Human the way that you would with something like League of Legends. There's no reason for you to play season after season after season if there are better games to be played. It will be there waiting for you. All the material and stuff on your account. Because it was designed to be that way. Just like Don't Starve Together was. It just so happens to be Once Human achieved with NetEase what Play designed as like a community to do collectively. And that's just on, everything. Then you got Monster Hunter Wilds. Monster Hunter Wilds exists in a way where it, just like Monster Hunter World, will have the same energy. But right now, there's too many games to play. So everybody's done all the content. They've done everything that is available. They wait for the next thing to come out. And then once that's out, once the Elder Tempered Ray Dao is released, they'll return, they'll do the content, then they'll leave again. Until they or their friends are going around doing whatever they can do to catch up to each other and get everybody at the same level of power, so they're all grouping and farming and doing whatever they want with whatever way of playing. And then when they get bored of that, they go off and play another game entirely. Not accounting for the games that I got from Daredrop, like Deadly Path, Deep Rock Survivor, for the same energy and reason that a person would play Balatro. It's there and it's something to do. Same thing with Imp with the Sun and Corpse Keeper for me. It's there, it's something to do. Where is this other game I just was looking at? South of Midnight. That's a game that's always going to be one and done. It is a story-based game. Once I play the story once, what's the point of replaying it again? Finding games that you can fit into that schedule, because, outside of those that are playing things like Final Fantasy XIV, I salute you and your wallets. Finding the time in which to play those video games that you're satisfied by, even if a person was gonna throw $7 at a old school RuneScape membership for a month just to disappear into the game and really immerse themselves in it, you have to find those games that you're willing to spend those times on, because you're gonna look fondly back on the memories that you had playing them and the things that you were doing in between playing them than you are with just keeping up with the Joneses and all the power spikes and the guides and the advices and the tips and the tricks that you can pick up. I've come to recognize that with the material that I do, because I realize I have more fun with video games, not when bad shit's not happening to me, but when I am truly having deep, enjoyable, and meaningful experiences with my loved ones and the people I'm playing the games with totally. Which sounds like it's the same thing, but it's more like I am not forcing content where I have to play something that ultimately makes me annoyed and stressed, because I have to micromanage the emotions of other people who do not think about how their actions affect others. So I'm being forced to bite my tongue and not have to teach a person how to be a fucking human being because they decided that they were going to suspend civility in a video game because they're upset or we're upset collectively at a thing that otherwise would just be fine. I can pick the game up and I can put the game down and then I can go out and do my day. And this person's interaction with me is not hounding me throughout the day or into my night. So that I don't then wake up with that on my mind, or I don't go to that task and come back to my home or come back to whatever it is I'm doing with that harboring emotion because it's not there, because I don't even allow it to have the chance to fester. Or if there is a situation that has to be addressed, that I'm able to work out with a person or persons that are responsible for the thing or the event or the place or the happenstance that caused it. We do not leave with resentment for that thing to build up and then cause me to look at that game poorly because of the interactions of those people. So, playing League of Legends, I don't like doing it sometimes because the attitude of the player base is dog shit. And, and the attitude of those players are caustic to your personality. People acting like that, believing that they can hound and harass your content, not just because they lost the game against you, both as an ally or an enemy, but because they decided that because you're a person that they devalue the humanity of, they can choose to hound you the way that those people did before in the past, or with Once Human. Because I know and play a lot in the game, that means because I don't let you walk all over me, you now have the license to treat me poorly and lie about me to try and get me punished because you think it's funny that you guys are co-signing a person who unironically wishes harm on me and my family. Why would I want to play that game? I associate you with that behavior. Do I want to stress myself out that it's going to happen? Preferably not. I'd rather do it with other people. But assuming that I don't have other people who are willing to jump in and play the game, either in the community or even on camera, preferably I would rather just go do something else entirely. Period. And then that's the content. And even if it's not the content, when I'm playing it and I'm not on camera and I want to be at peace, I don't even have to address the emotions that could come to me. I'm just there, vibing in existence. Watching number go up. Or watching enemy's head pop. It's easier than the alternative. Because once we find people that are like-minded, then we don't have to worry about that. Never have to worry about that kind of behavior, because then it's not me, myself, having to manage the action, because then I don't even have to say anything. Instead, my friends and my audience can speak on my behalf. It's probably the biggest defense that a person can ever have in terms of content creation, but that's bygones being bygones. It is what it is. We're way over 15 minutes, but this is going to be the last one for today, so that's fine. Thanks for asking.
No problem. Much appreciated. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Take care.
Hello, Bajan. Alright, chat. That is definitely going to be it for today. We are approaching 4 hours, I think. Yes, we are. It will be 4 hours in 15 minutes. I need to cook dinner. We had a good chat and conversation here. The Path of Exile server is up. So far, I am the only person inside, even though Lucas is also in here. If you are interested in joining into the server, the links can be found inside of this Discord and inside of Geistwin. All you gotta do is click on the link, and then when you boot up the game, the server will be right there for you to access. Am I standing on the fucking warp point? Yes, I am. So when you go to your character screen for character selection, when you've entered the private league, it will show up right here in this section, and you just click on join, you make your character, and then once you've made your character, you start that character just like any other character you'd make. So, you all have fun with that. Watch out for ticks. Oh no. He got touched by a tick! But, you guys have fun. Have a good weekend. I'm gonna see y'all on Monday. Keep it hot! Keep it hot!